stems to how important our mind is. When a person can't think properly anymore, the person is termed useless. And we don't realize how important it is. Many people go for medical checkup but forget the mental checkup they need to regularly have. And sometimes you don't even have to go to a hospital. Just as when you have a headache, you should rest. There are times when personally you should be able to know, okay, I don't feel mentally okay and I should rest. It's that important, and it's important to understand that there's a bi-directional relationship between our mind and our body. The same way so you feel tired in your body, and then you just don't feel in a good mood. Have you felt that way before, where you have a headache and you're suddenly cranky, you're not in the mood, you don't want to talk to anybody, you're just off because you have a headache? So that's your body physical symptoms affecting your emotions and your mood. And in the other way as well, your emotions and your mood can also affect your physical health, meaning that in the sense that, for instance, a person who is depressed is more likely to have more physical challenges, cardiovascular issues, from just, allow me to say, just depression. And some people just say, you're just depressed. It goes on to start affecting your kidneys, your organs, from depression, anxiety, organs start to fail. That's how important our what's going on? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. We can hear you, ma. Can you move on?
I hear you.
Okay, so okay, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's, please, I apologize. Okay, so I was saying that, sorry, I don't like that. Okay, yeah, so I was talking about how the mind and the body is interwoven, and if you look at times when you've probably been unwell, you see how it affects your mood, it affects your mind, your emotions. You can't write an exam when you're physically unwell because your mind can't function, can't think straight. And the other way around as well, when your mind can't think straight, you sometimes it starts to affect your physical body. There's data to prove that. And that's why I feel like, as much as we pay attention to our body, it's very important that we also pay attention to our mind. We feed our mind the right things. We care for our mind. When your mind is stressed, it's okay to rest physically as well. So I would move on to also mention that, we in Africa, when we talk about mental health, people already immediately think of mad people. I remember when the icebreaker started, and Tolu Afelumo asked, who are those who take care of people with mental health issues? And a lot of people said psychiatrists, some said everyone, but some people think of psychiatrists first because you're thinking of a mad person. Oh, this person has mental health issues, the person is in a psychiatric hospital, the person has lost cognitive functioning and cannot function properly in society. But that's not always the case. Mental health, we can view it as being on a continuum, on a spectrum, with good mental health on one end and then severe mental illness on another end. So you don't have to be severely mentally ill to realize that you're not well mentally. So that's why it's classified from mild to moderate to severe. So there's mild, where, for instance, you have a headache and you're not hospitalized because it's mild physical illness. You have diarrhea that is now getting severe. You've gone to the toilet like 10 times. Doctor might be like, what, let's put you on bed rest, let's give you that. moderate illness. And then there's the severe illnesses like cancer, where it's already at the final stage, where the person has to be in the hospital, can't do anything. That's severe. In the same vein, for mental health, there's the mild, there's the moderate, there's the severe. So don't look down on mild issues of mental health, where you just feel down, you're in a low mood. Yes, I mean, I don't want to go too deep into the classification, because it's not just because you feel low, you now say I have mental health issues. No, but I mean, it just means that your mental health is deteriorating and you need to rest to recoup. Just as you have a headache, you're not dying, but you need to take a break. You need to drink water. You need to sleep. Same for your mental health. You need to, when you feel like your mental health is depleting, even if it's in the mild state, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to rest, and so I'll just go on to why we need to take care of our mental health, because like I said, it's very important. It affects your physical health. If you notice, a lot of illnesses are becoming rampant, even physical illnesses, because I feel like I mean, there's research to show that a lot of mental health issues are on the rise. People's mental health are not in a good state, and that's why physically too, their body is experiencing some level of illnesses as well. And why we need to take care of our mental health is not far-fetched. One, stress is much. Someone mentioned sleep, how sleep is important for our mental health, and we can't deny the fact that stressors have increased. I mean, we literally work 24 hours. You don't need to go to the office to have a deadline to meet. Growing up, my dad has to resume at the office to meet his deadline. But now you meet your deadline at home. 12 midnight, you're still working. So stresses have increased. Increased screen time. We're always on our phone. We're always scrolling, always reading. We don't rest our brains. So yeah, those are a few reasons why we need to be aware that we are going through an immense level of stress compared to the medieval times, where you're at home. Some don't even have TV, so there's just quiet. You take care of the family, you eat. That's life then. But now life is so fast-paced. Your brain is always working. You're always doing something. You're always moving, on the move. Stress here, stress there, calls here, call there. Calls that in those days, it takes hours before the call gets to you or before a mail gets to you. Now you get it in real time. So you don't realize how much you're engaged, and it's okay, but that also shows why we need to take care of our mental health. There's also a point I wanted to mention about our nutrition. I want to say that nutrition is not as good as it used to be. I mean, there's the advent of junk food now, which is like the thing. It wasn't so hundreds of years back, because I mean, everybody eats organic, but now you just buy fast food, oils here and there. You don't even know how they make it, fried with oil that they fried 50 times, over and over, and reused, and we don't realize that there's actually a connection between our gut health and our brain health. So most times what you eat can actually affect your mood. What you eat affects your mental health as well. So we also don't realize, it's also important to pay attention to what you eat. If there's there's a very strong relationship with brain and the gut. If your gut health is bad, you probably can't. If your gut is in a extremely terrible state, you can't think straight. That's why a person who is purging, I don't know if you see someone who wants to run to the toilet, they can't even see you. Like, just give me a toilet right now. I need to free myself. That's how powerful our gut is. So we need to also pay attention to what we put into our stomach, because it affects our brain. And I'll just wrap up now by going to how we can take care of our mental health. And I would first touch on the physical. Like I said, we can't separate the two. The physical and the mental work hand in hand. And it's very important, first of all, to start by being at home in your body. I know that sounds a little off topic, but it's very important. There's so much pressure out there now, pressure to look a certain way. You go on social media, you see a pretty girl, and you're like, I don't have this figure. You see a guy who is, doing so well and all of that. I want you to sometimes take time out to breathe and be comfortable in your own body, be comfortable in your own space. Appreciate your body, appreciate your space, relax in it, enjoy yourself. Enjoy, like literally enjoy yourself. We don't find time to do that these days because, like I said, we're always on the move. But it's okay to pause and just be at home with yourself. Be at home in, your body. Relax, enjoy yourself, and that's the first step to enjoying a good mental health and even physical health. Be at home in your body. Enjoy time where you just spend time with yourself. Breathe, check your nails, check your face, just be aware of you because we see everything. We see social media. We don't even have time to be aware of ourselves, And then secondly, take care of your body by, good hygiene, good sleep, good rest, you know, take care of your body. Like someone once said that never left me. Your body is your first asset. So you need to take care of your body. You're your first asset. Your mind, your body, everything is your best asset. If you are not in a good state, you won't even be in this meeting. So find time to prioritize taking care of yourself. It's more important than anything. Good sleep, good rest, good food, prioritize self-care, take care of your body. I also would add, enjoy looking good. And why am I saying that? Because it does something to your mind. When you look good, you just feel good. So I'm not saying you should break the bank and spend all the money, but take time out to look the best for yourself, not for someone else. Prioritize being comfortable in yourself and enjoy you. How do you feel when you dress up? I mean, I think people like to take pictures on Sundays, if you notice, because Christians, especially because they're going to church, they're wearing their Sunday best, there's just that thing it does to you. Some people don't post only on Sundays because they look good. That's how important looking good helps. If you step out, look good, because you don't want to see how you feel when you see someone you went to school with and you're looking shabby. You know how that makes you feel, like, why did I step out today? Like, what's going on? Why did I come out today? That shows you how you look. As subtle as it might seem, it's very important to your mental health. So look good. Like I said, no pressure here. Don't break the bank. Just look good like you. I want to look like Aramide when I'm out. I want to feel happy in myself. Dressed the way I like to dress, decent and happy. I was going to mention that we should prioritize exercise, muscle movement. We're in a very sedentary age where we just sit down on laptops and phones. So prioritize moving around. If you do a 9 to 5 where you're always at home on your laptop, or even when you go out for 9 to 5, find time where you take walks. I have a friend who always takes walks in between our office hours. If you work from home, find time earlier before work, take a walk. And like I mentioned, then I'll go on to your mind, taking care of your mind. I just it's important that because we're in an information, be careful what information you take in. Sift your information carefully. Like there's so much information. I always tease and say I can travel to the whole world in 30 seconds. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but let's say 5 minutes. All I need to do is just scroll. Oh, see Ghana, see Japan, see America, see UK, all in 5 minutes. That's how exposed we are to information. So it's very important for us to sift information we feed our minds. You don't want to stress your brain. You don't want to put your mind in an overly simulated place. So sift the necessary information, and when it's not necessary, you have to be disciplined enough to say, I don't need this, and I think I would ditch this for now. And also it's important that we also filter the information we take in to be sure that we just as we feed our body good nutrition, feed your mind positive information as well. There's so much, because there's overflow of information, there's overflow of bad information. So you have to be careful to ensure that you sift your information flow to be sure that you're taking in a lot of positives, just so there's no imbalance. I mean, there's bad news everywhere, which we can't avoid, but consciously feed yourself with good information, positive information. Then also it's good to pace yourself. Where, like I said, we're in a fast-paced generation. So it's good to know when it's okay to pause. Have your breaks. Nobody will give you a break in this time and age that we are in. You have to give yourself that break. Some jobs run 24 hours, Monday to Saturday now. You have to decide when your off periods are, and you have to be disciplined about it. You have to know when it's your me time, when it's your off work time. Discipline, it can be overemphasized because a lot of people are, going through so much right now without even knowing they're going through much because their new stress state has become normal. So you need to, try to recalibrate yourself to factory setting, if I can say that, and reduce your information overload, pace yourself, relax, and enjoy time with yourself. And also, let me just end because my time is up. Let me end by saying that it's important to seek help when necessary. Where mental health is not more, a thing to feel like, oh, it's a stigma. I don't want to be stigmatized. Feel free to speak to someone. Feel free to speak to a friend. Feel free to speak to a professional. I mean, there's so much help out there now that you shouldn't feel shy to ask for help when you need it. So please seek help when you need it. Don't be shy. Don't feel like you're being weird. Like I said, you don't have to be severely ill in your mind mentally before you seek help. When it's mild, it's easy, you rest. When it's moderate, seek help already before it gets severe. So I hope I have been able to introduce us a bit into how important our mental health is, and I'm sure in the next segment we'll learn a bit about some common mental health illnesses that we face that we overlook, and I hope we'll learn a lot. Thank you so much for your time, and
Thank you
Tolu.
so much, Aramide, for that helpful thing. Feel good, look good, eat good, feel stuff. If everyone can give her a clap with your reactions. I know we're not in person, but we can still manage online. I will move on to our next speaker now. Thank you so much. Just to confirm, you can hear the sound. Can you guys hear the sound?
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay.
You can move on.
So for our next speaker, just to confirm, you can hear the sound because I'm getting some messages that we're not hearing the sound.
No.
Okay.
It's only playing now. We can't.
Oh, okay. I'll fix that next time. Sorry about that. But our next speaker is Ireoluwa. She's going to be talking about her lived experience with bipolar disorder and depression. Her personal experience, speaking about cause, stigma, support, and recovery. I'd just like to ask this obviously sensitive topic, so if we can keep our questions to the end, that would be really helpful. Also, I've put the Slido link in case you have any questions while the speakers are talking. You can add your questions there, and then when we're doing the Q&A, I'll read those out so they can answer them. So handing over to Ireoluwa now.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Please confirm you can hear me. Clearly.
Yeah, I can hear you, but you have to speak louder, please.
Okay. How about now? Good.
No, it's fine.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning. Yes, we're still in the morning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from whatever zone you're joining us from. I'm pretty stoked to be here. I feel like this is my first official out of my gathering, sharing of my experience. So, it's gonna, let's see, let's see how we run on this, right? So, good morning, everyone, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share. I'm always very excited to share my story, always so excited to share my story because my story is a story of growth, it's a story of becoming, and it's a story of living your life in a way that portrays beyond what you've gone through. One thing I'd always say that I think many of us would have heard this a number of times, when they say that your story is your strength. And I strongly believe that as well. Your story is your strength. Whatever you've been through, whatever you are currently going through, whatever you know is what informs who you become. And there's something at also so many things I picked when Aramide was speaking, and one of the things I'm also able to deduct from everything she has said is that your mental health, it informs your identity. The mental health informs your identity. And for me, it became a mixed identity at a point because from the earliest form of self-realization, anybody that knows me will tell you Iri is an extremist. I'm either too angry or I'm just too laid back or I'm just whatever it is, just be happy or I'm overly excited about something. I just don't care about it. I'm always on the extreme of every spectrum. There's never an in between for me. And it became, I was happy with it. I like when people would tell me, oh, you're so unpredictable. I liked it. So in a way, I was just living with it until it got to a point where it looked like I wasn't performing to the best of my capacity. I mean, I knew that I had a lot of capacity in me. And I wasn't delivering. And I had to start to take introspective, decisions like, okay, what's going on? Why am I like this? There were nights that I'm going to bed happy and I'm waking up the next morning. I just don't feel like standing up from my bed. I just everybody just go, I was that friend that you don't want to invite me to come anywhere because you're almost sure that I'm going to slay you. But Nigerians, you understand that language. I will slay you. I'll tell you that, I'll be there by 5. Trust me, by 4:30, I'm still excited. By 4:45, I'm like, what's even going to happen there? And I'm like, let everybody just do their day, just a little sweet, and I'm just done. And that was my experience with this disorder. But for me at first, there was no expression to it. One thing you would have heard if the audio played was that I studied psychology. So I always believed that psychology was a very divine placement for me to have studied because if I hadn't studied psychology, I don't believe I would have been self-aware enough to notice that this is what's going on. So, over time, I realized that why is this is not making sense anymore? Like, why do I just switch off like that? Like, my switch off was always so fast. My switch on was always so fast at the same time. Like, you couldn't tell what was going to be a trigger. Even I couldn't tell what was going to be a trigger or what would not be a trigger. So it became a situation where I take 2 steps back, maybe quite a number of steps back to just see what was going on. And because of my background in psychology, I could trace it to more. Oh, this is not what I think it is. So I had to reach out to some colleagues that I trusted, which is also something I need you to hold on to here. When you're expressing yourself, when you're expressing how you feel, it's very important you're expressing yourself to people you can trust. Which is one of the reasons if you have to go to a therapist, you probably would sign on, they probably would sign on disclosures with you that this story is not going to get out of here. We hear that a lot when we visit mental facilities, like this stays here, it doesn't get out of here. So it's very important that when you are speaking your story, you are in spaces where you can trust people that, this is not going to get out, especially because I believe that getting out of your mental whatever mental experience you have, whatever mental unwellness, permit me to use that word, that you have, is like starting as a child, is like growing up as a child. If you don't expect a child on the first day of his birth to start to walk, you don't even expect the child to start to babble on the first day of his birth. The only thing you hear from a child when a child is born is their cry. They don't even babble. They don't babble until like 3 months old, I believe. And for me, I'd say that it's important to speak to people who trust first so that they can guide our baby steps. So you're not just throw yourself out there because we talk about stigmas, we talk about all of that. So let me just take a few steps back and talk about the causes. So for me, ideally we talk about triggers, we talk about all of this, but I personally believe that triggers come from a deeper space, right? Triggers come from a deeper space. So usually it's very important for you to be able to trace the cause that is causing the trigger. And I'm going to explain this. So for me, personally, I'll say a little bit of my childhood story as well. I was born into a family of a clergyman. My dad was a pastor. And then they sent us to this secondary school where it was supposed to be for pastors' children, basically. But there were a lot of wild children in the school as well. So many things were going on. And then, my parents were just comfortable, but there were like extremely rich people in the school as well, very wealthy people in the school, because my parents did all they could to make sure that our children don't, I would say that education is an investment for your children, the people they meet and all of that. So that was my parents, that was the mindset for my parents when they positioned us in this school. So for me, at home, I'm expected to be this conservative girl, a pastor's daughter, doing things by the books, listening and all of that. But in school, I had to experience this wildness. I had to experience these extreme things. And it was difficult for me to balance. I'm back home, I'm something else. Back in school, I'm trying to belong in that circle because they want, I was somebody they wanted in their circle as well. So I believed that I had to do the things that they were doing to be able to fit in their circle. And this was as little as 4 years old, 5 years old. I think I was 4. I was 4 when this started. So I felt like I needed to do the things that they were asking me to do to be able to be accepted in them, in their cliques. And that's how it started for me. It was an identity crisis. That's how it started. So I couldn't be then. I couldn't be, the other way as well. So then this was the cause. This was the root cause of everything. The fact that from childhood there was an identity crisis, and I usually would say that most mental wellness issues that we had, especially the extreme ones, not minus the stress, the little ones that we experience when we've grown up, stress, depression, and all of that. There's usually a deeper cause to it, and a lot of times I believe that they are developmental issues. If you see a person that when they grow up, they have major issues with women, say a man, for example, that doesn't trust women, it's most likely that he had abandonment issues from a woman when he was younger and he couldn't get over it. He couldn't heal through it. So a lot of times before we can really, let me use the word attack, before we can really attack whatever it is that the mental issue is, we need to first be able to trace the actual cause of it, get to the root of it. Because a lot of times we talk about triggers, but we forget that something is making that trigger in the first place. Something is causing the trigger to be triggered in the first place. Like there's a reason it is touching you, because it's just like somebody saying, okay, so it's like somebody saying that I'm going to pack your load out of the house, that kind of thing. It won't get you, get what something you're losing out. How some people can threaten this, right? But because it becomes a trigger, like if it's not your fault because I don't have money, it's not your fault because I've not built my own house. We start to say things like that. But if it was your house, it would not trigger it to start thinking about it that way. You would easily be in your space and be happy about it. Like you got the space, right? So usually our triggers are caused by something deeper than what we might be seeing on the surface. So for me, my triggers were usually having to show up. If I'm supposed to go somewhere and I believe that either I feel like the people there are not going to match up my energy, I switch off. Or I believe that, these people here, it looks like they have more money than me. I switch down. I switch down. I'm like, I don't want to go. Those were my triggers. Those were the mild. That's even just mild trigger. Those were just mild triggers, to be honest. Those were the mild triggers I had. But over time, because I could recognize that something was causing it, I was able to trace it back to the root cause of it. So it was easy for me. Now, my getting through it, I would have said, I started speaking about stigma earlier when I was saying speak to people you can trust. Speak to people you can trust. Because there's a lot of times we step into the healing journey for our mental wellness, and we start to talk to people who start to use the things that they know against us. That's when you meet somebody that will gaslight you, that it's not your fault now. Actually, it's because I'm inviting you to a gathering of people that are higher than you. If I wasn't inviting you, you would be able to step into the room with this type of people in the first place, things like that. And that's because the person knows your story. If the person did not know your story, the person not have been able to say this and that about you. So the stigmas come from people who do not understand that there's a carefulness you have to, be with things that have to do with the mind. And that's also one of the reasons I'm strongly for mental wellness. There's an organization that I run. I don't know if I'm permitted to say that. But I run a mental wellness major self-awareness. Because if you are not aware that the things you are saying, we do self-awareness, self-control, and then self-expression. We call it acing yourself, self-awareness, self-control, self-expression. Now, if you are not aware that the things you are saying are hurting someone, you will not be able to control what you say. So the stigmas come from people who are not aware that their conversations need to be controlled before they can express it, and then we allow ourselves to be exposed to such people, and the stigma starts. We're not able to show us our faces again. And another thing I like to say is, the way we say healing is not linear. Someone might have a headache today and person only has to take paracetamol and person is fine. And that person might have to sleep 10 hours. Sometimes when I feel sick, I really do not take drugs. When I feel sick, I probably will just sleep. I can sleep two, like I'll be sleeping back to back for 2 days. I promise you that when I'm awake after the 2 days, I'm fine, I'm energized to run again. And now it's not because I'm depressed. I know that I'm not depressed. I just want to sleep. I'm tired. I want to rest. Aramide mentioned that as well. Sometimes you need to be able to take note that your body needs rest. I just want to rest. And that's fine for me. I sleep, my headache goes. But for some other people, they do not realize that it's self-awareness that makes what I need to do in this moment. And they're able to just control their work best for you, And it comes from your expression, it comes from your awareness, it comes from the control. And that's the framework that's personally worked for me. I'm aware. The moment I feel like something is getting to me, I'm asking myself at first that, why is this getting to me? How do I control this situation? I started speaking about how healing is not linear. And I believe that identity is not linear as well. Your identity is gotten from how well you are in your mind. Your identity is gotten from how well you are in your mind. Someone who has low self-esteem is because the person does not have confidence in what the person can do. I always say that I don't believe there's anything like high self-esteem. You either have low self-esteem or you are good with yourself. Anybody that looks like they are over portraying themselves, their ego is higher than themselves, it's still low self-esteem. Because if you are comfortable in yourself, you don't see a need to bring someone else down. The only reason you are bringing someone else down is because you need somebody to be lower so you can be big for yourself. That's how I see it. So I don't think there's anything like high self-esteem. It's low self-esteem. Anything that is beyond good understanding of yourself is low self-esteem. So, but if you are not aware of the things that make you have low self-esteem, you won't be able to pack it. You won't be able to face it. And for me, I'd say identity, like I don't know why I keep emphasizing it. Your identity is tied to how well you are in your mind. And that's how it was for me. So every time I feel like a situation is beyond my control, I start to ask myself why. Why do I feel like I cannot show up here? Why do I think these people are more than I am? Do I need to be able to, should I humble myself in this situation so that I can learn? And I always have a saying, I say that, limitations are only lessons that we have not learned. Limitations are only lessons that we have not learned. Nothing is too much for you as a person. So because, I've had to go through the whole phase of feeling less than myself, feeling more than people. And I believe that there is nothing that you cannot become as a person if you are able to learn the lesson to cross that hurdle. And that's why I say limitations are only lessons that we have not learned. And the only way you can learn these things is to be humble. Nobody will, if you're not humble, you feel like nobody can teach you. And one of the good things that's helped me is I can learn from a 6-year-old. The same way I'll learn from a 90-year-old. The same respect I'll give to a 90-year-old, I'll give to a 2-year-old, because respect is reciprocal. You cannot expect a 6-year-old or a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old to respect you if you are not respecting what they know. Again, bring it back to self-awareness, self-expression, self-control. These are a little of the things that have helped me. My time is running out, so I'm just going to try to wrap up fast, so I do not take our time. So this is my story. These are things that have helped me, my identity, being able to, become who I am fully, is in the knowing of the things that limited me in the first place. So I had to face it. I say you have to face these things head on. I had to face it to be able to know the things that, had limited me from the scratch. And that's what has helped me to become who I am today. Not to blow my own trumpet, but I'd say I'm doing pretty well right now because I'm able to lead people. And this is not something I believe that I could have done before, because I feel like these are people that this person is probably more than me. But if you are on one of the staff, majority of people on the staff list of the company that I'm consulting with right now are older than I am, but I'm still able to come down to people's level, be on people's level. I'm able to control how presentation by, because I first recognized what the issue was, and I'm happy that I was able to. I say the most support I had was having friends around me who understood that since the high capacity individual that we need to just support, get out through it. And they were constantly always telling me, don't worry, you are more than what you are. You are this thing. I had friends who call me at the beginning of every year and tell me, what's your plan for this year? What's your this? What are you doing this year? And that's because they knew that I had the capacity to do it. So surround yourself with people that believe in you beyond whatever you are going through. They know that whatever you are going through, it's just facing the moment, and that you are more than what you are. I'm going to leave us with that right now because I don't like to use too much time. So thank you once again so very much for this opportunity. I look forward to connecting with us again. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
I really appreciate it. Can we give her a round of applause on our Microsoft Teams round of applause and do it? They say third time's a charm, so I'm going to try again with the sound for this video. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed what you said. I think her story really highlights the importance of good friends that uplift you versus friends that put you down, and how that affects your mental health. So thank you so much for sharing that. I really do. I learned a lot myself. So, okay, I think I've mastered the sound. I think I've mastered it. Okay.
Gbemisola Osoba is a trauma-informed psychologist and mental health advocate. She's pursuing a master's degree in psychology at Liverpool John Moores University, UK. As an assistant clinical psychologist at NDD and therapist at Ildura, Gbemisola creates safe spaces for healing. Through her platform Psych Mind Glow, she uses storytelling to destigmatize mental health conversations in Nigeria, promoting emotional safety and wholeness. Her work combines clinical expertise with community advocacy.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this sound that's fixed. I'm so sorry about the first two videos and not having any sound, but I'm glad that we have sound now. Thank you, Ireoluwa. Now we have our next speaker, Gbemi, who will be leading us again. If she's here, she could take over.
Gbemisola.
Everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Of what we're doing here, because I to speakers actually really learned I was even taking it because like these are no conversations that we have very often, but then it's meant to be had, especially when now that we're having a lot of talks about mental health, but we don't really know exactly the Gen Z, which they have shaded just now. And the first speaker shaded, they don't actually know what actually mental health is, but they are talking about, they know some They just don't know exactly what it is. And that's why conversations like this are very, very, very important. So what I just want to start with is actually discussing what mental health is. It's a very, very special topic to me because um, it's the reason why I actually, yes, I studied psychology, but then I wasn't sure whether I wanted to practice it yet until when I started my internship and I saw people and I had the opportunity to interact with people. And I saw people with their struggles, the stigmatization in Nigeria. Many people wanted to stay in the facility rather than go back home. They were okay, they were fine. They had received therapy, they had received medications, they were good, but they didn't want to go back because of the way they would be treated. Even some just went back to the facility. They're like, they don't want to stay outside. People are treating them badly. It's triggering for them. So they just rather stay there. And we have people stay there for years because they just want to go back outside. Stigma, lack of awareness, and so forth going on. So beginning, firstly, what I just want to say is that mental health is something that we all have. Everybody here has a mental health. And mental health is a summary of your emotional well-being, your physiological well-being, and your social well-being. So basically your emotions, how do you regulate stress? Every single day we go through stress. Stress to go to work, stress to come back, stress to get the job done, stress even with replying those emails. Even right now, me talking, this is stress because, oh my God, I'm talking to people. Yeah, so like that. But then there are mild stress and then there are severe stress too. So that's where we have like PTSD and the rest. So every single time you encounter stress, how do you regulate? How do you manage it? That's for the emotional part. Then we're talking about the physiological. Like the first speaker said, our gut health has something to do with our mind too. So your digestion, your hormones, weight regulate, it has something to do with your mental health. So how is your physical health? Sometimes you may be having somatization. Somatization is having pains and then there's no medical explanation for it. So you may be having like, let's say heartburns, you may be having like stomach aches, back pains, just, and it might be related to the stress that you are facing currently. That's the reason why you're having those physical symptoms. So that's where we have that also physiological well-being. And then your social, how do you interact with people? Are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? Or is it that normally you used to go out to hang out with people and now you're no longer going out? So those three things sum our mental health. So your emotional, your physiological, and your social well-being. So now I'm talking about mental illness. And the thing is, mental illnesses is basically when those three factors that I mentioned are interfered with by a condition or by an event. Maybe that's why I said PTSD earlier. Maybe something very traumatic happened to you. You couldn't process that event and it shifted something in you. That's where we have PTSD come up. So a condition or an event actually now changing the way your emotion, the way you regulate your emotions, the way you socialize with people, there's a social side, and then physiologically, where you are facing some distresses, you are having a lot of imbalances, and then they are now having negative consequences. So it becomes a pattern. For example, let's say somebody that has anxiety disorder, and the person is always worried to go out. Like you don't want to go out because you're worried that you might have an attack. You might feel like your hand is shaking. You might can be having difficulty breathing. You might have issues regulating your body, and then you're just scared of all those things. You have an attack outside in front of people, or you're worrying that, oh, if I go out, what if this happens to me? What if that happens to me? Things like that. That's an example. So it now becomes a pattern, something that happens to you every single time, right? So over and over again. So mental illness is when an event or a condition affects your emotional, your physiological, and social well-being, which is the sum total of your mental health. So when an event or a condition affects it, thereby leading to a negative consequence, and it becomes a pattern, something that happens over and over again. It's a pattern. The condition leads to a negative pattern of thinking, of feeling, of relating with people, of regulating, and then you have negative consequences. And the thing is that in psychology, we have three consequences basically. It's just to give us it's a category. We have the what we can say like the mild. Some people can say it's mild, which is the distress. Because of this condition or this event, you experience a lot of distress. Maybe you have issues going out to certain places because of something bad happened to you there. So every single time you're worrying, or every time you see a red car, you are panicking because you're having thoughts because you had an accident and it was a red car that hit you at that time. So like every time you see a red car, you're like, okay, you're just worrying. You're like, am I sure I should cross the road? Like you're just distressed. You're always worried, or maybe you feel scared or you feel agitated over and over. So that's a consequence. That's a distress. Distress is one of the consequences. Then we have danger. Danger is now where you are in a place where you can be a danger to somebody else or to yourself in personal. Maybe you're having suicidal ideations. Maybe you want to die by suicide because of something that happened to you or because of a mental illness. And you're like, oh, maybe this life is not actually worth it. Maybe I should just end it now. That's danger to yourself. Or to other people, you're like, these people are the reason for my sorrow. So let me just finish them in their sleep or just carry a silencer and things like that. That's example of danger. And then we have what we call impairment. Impairment is when the mental illness actually affects you in a way that like it affects your everyday life. It affects how you interact with people. It affects your work. It affects every single area of your life. So, for example, somebody that has an OCD, that's obsessive compulsive disorder, where they have compulsive thoughts of some of them have rituals. For example, there's some people that they are scared of germs and they must make sure they wash their hands like over and over 7 times. Like, oh, I touched this, let me wash my hand. I touched this. So them having that, it's not something they can control. So them having that compulsion to always do that particular ritual can get them worried. It can even make it hard for them to maintain a job. That's why you say an impairment. Maybe hard for them to like handle a job, give the person the job, like, oh, okay, we need you to be a manager of this organization. And your manager in a meeting is always standing up to wash his hand every minute, he's standing up. The person will get fired or will get fired. It's hard for them. So some mental illness can lead to impairment. So those are the examples of consequences, right? Now, for example, the reason why we're having this conference is to spread more awareness of mental health in Africa. And the thing is that this is very important for us to discuss in Africa because our culture, it kind of limits us in the place of actually getting help. Because of, like I said earlier, the reason why I actually decided to practice psychology was because I realized how it was hard for people, like in the rehab, to go back. They're like, my family members, my friends, my neighborhood, okay, switch somewhere else. Oh, they will see a record, my workplace, they're going to treat me differently. There's a stigma that comes around it. You see them as you say they are mad people, and there's nothing like body is mad. You know, the person is actually just is just dealing with a disorder. It's like falling sick. You can't say somebody is mad for going to hospital to go and treat a malaria. Like the person has malaria and just going to go and get a treatment for it, and then the person has taken treatment and the person is fine and is coming back to work. That's how it is too for mental illnesses. Like, for example, someone is dealing with depression, right? Somebody is dealing with depression and the person came for therapy. And then you're like, oh, because of, oh, you went for therapy, that means you're mad or something is wrong. It's very, very wrong. And that's what happens a lot in Africa. So many people, they know they need help, but they are scared to because of how they be treated when they actually ask for it. And sometimes they don't even know who to trust. Like our first speaker said, looking for someone to trust. When you don't know who to trust, and that's what leads to the second one I'm going to say is you looking out, because we have a number of us here. And just imagine all of us here reaching out to our loved one. How are you doing? How are you feeling? How are you? Is there anything wrong with you currently? Is there anything you want us to discuss? Just having that intimate conversation with them. You don't know who you're going to save by having this conversation, because they actually might be dealing with a lot, but they don't know who to share it with, or they don't know if anybody around them will understand what they are going through. Because in Nigeria here or any other part of Africa, if you are saying some, which I'm going to say later, so I don't want to jump the gun. Okay. So talking about mental illnesses, there are many types of mental illness, right? There's anxiety disorder. Anxiety disorder has different types. I was warned before this that I should not use big grammar here. That I should make it as simple as possible. So I'm not going to use big grammars. We have anxiety disorder, and there are different types under it, right? There's the general one. I just say general. General is where you're just worried. Every time you're just worried over and over again. There's a social anxiety where you're just scared, you're worried, you don't like you feel awkward, you feel very, 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 you feel like you have certain like panic, worrying thoughts, impulsive, different kind of mixture when you're in social gatherings. There's the panic attacks too. So that's under anxiety, and it happens a lot here in Africa. So there are many people that are, sorry, I'm in Africa, electricity is going. So there's it happens a lot, right, in Africa. And then you have depression. Depression is having characterized by low mood, you're sad, you feel hopeless, you feel helpless over and over again. It's not something that just blows off, it's prolonged for a prolonged period of time. And one thing about mental illnesses is that some of them are comorbid, meaning that some mental illness can lead to another mental illness if it's not properly taken care of when it progresses. So you can have 2, you can have 3, you can have 4. It's like as many as, if you don't seek help, you can accumulate and you can have many different types of it. Like, for example, someone that has depression might actually have general anxiety. So like the person is sad, the person is worried, the person just feels hopeless, helpless. They gradually the person start having thoughts and worries about their future. Like, now, see where I am, there's nothing I can do. I don't feel like doing anything. What will happen to my future? What will happen to my career? What will happen to my life? It's gradually anxiety develops. Someone with OCD too can have anxiety disorder where they're like I'm always compulsive. I have to check that there's light. What if I'm outside now? What if I haven't turned off the light in my house? I checked 3 times. So how am I sure that the 4th time I actually checked? What if I do? It's just overwhelming for them. So if there's no proper help, if you don't receive proper help, they can have more and more. And then we have substance use, and I can't laud it more than enough. It's something that happens a lot in Africa here, where we have, because we don't talk about emotions. They see you as you're a man, you're a tough man. Somebody died, you're like, oh, don't worry, it's tough. You did cry. Now, man, he's one managing the family and household. Okay. But then deep down, he lost his father, someone that was important to him. He lost his mom. Maybe he grew up from a poor family, and then he just started making it. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to spoil my parents finally. And then boom, mama is dead. And they're like, you're a man. You chased it now. But like, he had hopes, he had dreams, he had things like that. And then he doesn't have anybody to talk to, but they'll say you're a man. So he just uses substance. Okay, I'll just go and drink. I'll drink my sorrows away and things like that. And actually, you can then develop substance use disorder, where you just take substance, you take different kinds of substances, and then you can progress to addiction and things like that happening. And it's a lot in Africa. We see people drinking gutter. You see people in gutter, and you're like, it's normal, it's Africa. It's cry for help. It's actually cry for help. When next you see somebody not when they are drunk, actually, before they hit you. But like, if you like study, there's a particular person that by a particular time they're always drunk. Maybe you can just approach them when they are sober. Like, hi bro, how you doing? Rather than judging them, right? That you're used to drink as usual. Just saying something like that. And so I will just not lose my line of thought. How do you identify that you are stressed? To be honest, being African, it's not easy. Even right now, I'm stressed, man. It's like there's stress everywhere. Oh boy, there's so much stress, man. But how do you identify that it's an extreme, right? And that you need help? Not that you just chest it and take it in. For example, let's say there's something that we call burnout, where you are tired, right? There's a burnout where you feel weak and tired. And one thing is that everybody reacts to stress differently. So I'm going to say a list of signs, but then some may not apply to you and some may do. But it's just for you to identify with yourself, because nobody will know you better than you know yourself. So the first thing I would say is burnout. You are tired. You woke up today, you had 7 hours rest, but you feel worse than you went to bed. You're like, oh, why did I even sleep? Because my body is aching, I'm tired, I feel worse. You feel like normally you're the kind of person that you're social, all of a sudden you're withdrawing yourself. You feel emotionally empty. There's no empathy left for you to feel for anybody. Just like someone just comes to you and just randomly around, I was robbed yesterday. They robbed me my last 30K. And you're like, hey, so did they kill you? Did they kill you? They're not killing you now. It's just 30K that was taken away. And normally you're not that kind of person. You're kind of person like, oh, sorry, is there anything I can help? And then boom, you see yourself in that place. Please, that's a ticking timer telling you, please, sister, brother, relax, chill. You're stressed. You're under a lot. Because That's one thing. And the thing is that burnout is not always that you can't function. Sometimes it's what we call functional burnout, where you are functioning excellently well, but you're tired. You're coming to work, you're showing up on time, you're doing those tasks, you are going to church, you're doing everything, but then you're tired, you're burnt out. So those are the subtle signs you just that sometimes maybe people are having conversations with you and you see yourself zoning out. That's a sign of burnout. Like you're just out of the conversation. You're not hearing jack. You're just out. That's a sign of burnout. And that's also one. And then there's another thing is your mood. Are you having subtle like shifts in your mood swings? Like you're having a lot of mood swings. Like maybe right now you are happy, next thing you're so sad. Like your mood is just switching and you have no particular reason why. That's another sign. And the thing is that most of these signs, they are there, but it takes us to sit down with ourselves and actually ask ourselves, how am I feeling today? Today, I reacted in a particular way to this person. Why did I react that way? Is it because of what they did? Or is it because of I have a lot inside that I'm just letting out on that person? So it's something for you to have a conversation with yourself. I'll recommend having a check-in with yourself every single day at random times. Have check-in with yourself. Okay, right now, how do I feel? Do I feel happy? Do I feel sad? Okay, if I feel happy, why am I happy? If I feel sad, why am I sad? Okay, is there anything you can do to this? Because you are a person and it's something you have to always remind yourself. You don't only need to be nice to other people, you have to be nice to yourself as a person. So me, Gbemisola, I am an individual. I deserve to show my self-love as much as possible and care and also pay attention to myself. So why do I do this? Why that? So having those wellness check-ins is very, very important. To check in your state of mind, to check in things like that, it's actually very, very important. And the thing is that for mental health, I think that for mental health, many times in Nigeria, we kind of attribute it to spiritual attacks. Like, for example, the one I said about the somatic symptoms, where all of a sudden you're having like leg pains or chest pains and things like that. And you went to the doctor and the doctor said there's nothing wrong with you. And you're like, that means it might be my village. Maybe you should look around. Okay, is there anything that's changed currently in my life? Is there something that changed in my lifestyle? Is there something that changed in my diet? Because our first speaker spoke about your gut health. Is there something that changed in my diet? Is there something that changed in my social life at work? My room too, the state of my room too. Is there something wrong with my house? Is there just checking with yourself? Are you under pressure? Are you under stress? That could be also the reason why you're going through this pain, because your mental state can also affect your physical state. So another symptom of stress is body pain, like just having body pain, your back, your leg, everything. And apart from the check-ins, what I would also recommend is seek help. In Africa, just like how mental health, we're talking a lot about it and is progressing a lot, so do we have therapists out there that are ready to help you, certified, licensed therapists. Not just anybody that just took one course and say, okay, I'm ready to cure your life. No. Licensed therapists are here to help you. In Africa, look for those ones. Don't look for because why I'm saying this specifically is because many people have actually heard talks like this and they're like, okay, I'm going to go and seek help. And then they told me that, oh, I went to seek help and my therapist was doing like a life coach. My therapist was profiling me. I had my gist outside. And to be honest, you just like it's already a big step for you to try to seek help. And then you now want to seek help, but you went to the wrong place. And then you are traumatized by the help that you went to seek. So you're now locked in double two, what they call that, two authentication, whatever. You're not double locked in. You don't want to ask anybody at all again. So please be careful where you reach out for help. Is the person licensed? What is the person's? It's fine for you to ask the person's educational background. What are the qualifications? To be sure that you're actually from someone that is trained just when you're asking for help. So for therapy, it's a good place to start. And those consequences that I listed don't need to lead to an impairment or to lead to danger before you actually seek help. The moment you are feeling distressed because of a particular thing, maybe your mental health or something, please, that's when you should start looking for help to reach out to you. So I hope I did not take too much of 20 minutes. I think I'm time. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody. That's all I just have to say for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was really insightful. Actually, I learned a lot. Can we all give can we give Femi a clap with our Microsoft Teams hands? I think the point you made about substance abuse is so important. I think especially in this part of the world, people don't really understand the consequences, and a lot of people resort to it, which is really interesting. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. So now we're just going to be moving on to a short break. So I have the timer on the screen here. Please don't log out because we don't want these technological issues to get involved. All you can do is just mute your microphone so we don't hear the background sound. And then just keep your eye on the timer that I will have on the screen so you know when to come back for the next session, which is our presentations from Queen Mary University of London, and also our panel session and the Q&A. So I'm very excited for that. I'm just going to mute my mic now, and then we're going to have like a short break. If everyone can be back for 11:45, that will be really, really helpful so we can start on time. So I'm just going to mute my mic now.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to add that please don't leave the Teams platform just so you don't forget. You know, like someone likes to say, so you don't want to cook beans and forget to join back. So please, let's just stay in. There's still so much coming. The panel session is like the bomb, so you don't want to miss that. And then the research results from the Queen Mary University London. So yeah, let's stay in, locked in. I see Abubakar Usman is not moving. Oluwatobi Ojewusi is right there. And hello. Yeah, you sure we will not just be gisting because I'm not moving from my seat.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. If anybody has any comments about the speeches that we've had before, then you can share those comments now.
Yeah, session.
Yeah, or if you need to go to the toilet, now is the time. Yeah.
Well, what I learned was that there's no such thing as high self-esteem.
Amos, we can't really
Amos, we can't really hear you well because there's a lot of background sound.
Okay, I said
we can hear you now.
There's nothing like high self-esteem. High self-esteem. Now I'm got
Yes,
me.
that was a good point. Yeah, that was a nice point from Ireoluwa. That was a nice point. Nothing like high self-esteem.
That you have low self-esteem or you're just confident with yourself.
Yeah, I picked up on that one as well. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if I mean I agree, but only to an extent because I think you can have high self-esteem.
No,
I still think you can have high.
Yeah, maybe the high self-esteem she's talking about pride. Well, yeah, now
I still think
I think it's just
like proud.
What I would say is overconfident, right? Yeah, it's not just overconfident. Like you feel like you're more than people. That's what I would define it as.
Okay, yes.
So it's not
yes,
high self-esteem.
Yeah.
So I just feel like you are either aware, you are either a balanced human, or if you think that you are more than any other person, there's something
like
wrong
you're
with
proud.
you. Yeah, there's something. If you feel like there are people that are lower than you, then that's low self-esteem. It's major. So
Yeah.
in fact, I believe that it's worse than those who don't express themselves because they think that they don't match up to people. I believe
true.
that
But
those that have that higher one, where they feel like they are more than people in their spaces, is worse than those that don't express. I feel like it's worse because it takes a lot of work. They need to be able to accept first, and they hardly ever accept. You know.
Yeah,
I believe it's a lot of work.
I think there's some mental illness. Yeah, I agree with you actually anyway, because there's some mental illness where you can have like a grandiose sense of self and feel that you're the prime minister. So I do get it. I do get it. Does anybody else have any other thoughts that they had from the first half of the conference? Yes, Oluwatobi.
Like if you could just like give, just like a little, a little analysis or explanation on low self-esteem and imposter syndrome. Please confirm if you heard me. Can you hear me?
So, sorry, yes, we can hear you now, but we couldn't hear you before because there was a lot of background noise, or maybe the headphones.
How about now? Can you hear me now? All right. So what I was saying is could you give like a little analysis on imposter syndrome and low self-esteem, like just a little analysis on how you can manage them and like handle them, majorly imposter syndrome.
Yes, okay, I'm going to save that one for the Q&A. I'm going to save that one, but a little analysis, and I'll direct that to Ireoluwa. So she's the one that brought up self-esteem, so she'll answer that question for you. I'm going to note it down now so I don't forget as well. Thank you for sharing that. That's a little.
Question.
It was a little analysis on low self-esteem and high self-esteem and how you can manage it when you have low self-esteem. Am I right, Oluwatobi?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll save it though. Okay. Okay, so I think it's 11:45 now. Hopefully everybody's back from the toilet. We can move on to the next session. So the next part, I think there's some feedback. Okay, so the next session is our research session. Obviously, it's a conference where we have a varied mix. Like I've seen that there's some teachers here, there's some health professionals here. So I think it's very nice to balance our real life experiences and our talks with some research, but it's still going to be interactive. Don't you worry. It's going to be interesting. So first off, we'll go with Gemima Kabunda, who is going to be talking to us or presenting some research from Queen Mary on the portrayal of wealth on social media and its mental health effects. So she can. I'm going to hand over to her now. She'll share her screen.
Okay. Just gonna share now. Just to start, I'd like to thank everyone beforehand, everyone that spoke. Very interesting, very insightful. Just to confirm as well, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can see your screen.
Okay. All right. So welcome to my presentation, which will be on the hypervisibility of wealth and its effect on mental health. As a disclaimer, before we do start, I will state that I am not a financial expert nor therapist. So all the information I will present is not intended to act as financial advice. My only aim is to present the psychological literature on this topic, create awareness on, and generate conversation around the mental health outcomes of wealth displays on social media. So to start, money is involved in every single aspect of our lives, whether we want to admit it or not. It dictates both implicitly and explicitly our status in society, the types of opportunities we're able to access, and to a large extent, the identities that we assign to ourselves and others. Given this then, money, whether it's abundant in our lives or not, has the power to both individually and collectively affect us behaviorally and psychologically. Social media then presents us with a new interface where concepts of money and wealth are amplified, coupled with the increased accessibility that middle and lower class people have to quote unquote upper class symbols of wealth, such as designer bags, fine dining, and luxury holidays. Our psychological relationship with money has then changed dramatically. To understand how and why this happens, first, we need to look at the existing theories of money. Though there are many more, here are three psychological theories that exist within the field of money literature. Number one, we have the self-sufficiency view, which is the idea that money allows us to reach personal and social goals without the need for social connection. Number two, we have money as a tool, which suggests that money can be used as a tool to convey one's competence, which also interlinks with the exchange theory of money. With this suggests that money increases individual self-esteem by demonstrating competence, which then helps us to maintain an overall positive self-image. Now, we can give context to these theories by exploring their documented psychological effects within research. Money has been found to decrease the degree to which people choose to conform. This, alongside self-perceptions of occupying a higher social status, elevates our sense of entitlement. Similarly, money-orientated individuals tended to prefer solitary activities and maintain greater physical and psychological distance between themselves and others. Both of these findings point to money creating individualistic tendencies that contribute to the cold, hostile, yet flashy and saturated economic picture painted online. Now, let's put what we've learned into the context of social media. Psychological literature already details extensively the negative emotional effects of excessive social media use. We tend to compare ourselves to people we deem to be socially higher than us. This is called upward social comparison. The more we see ourselves as similar to our comparative peers, for example, I might compare myself to, let's say, Aya Star, because we're both Black, we're both women, and we're around about the same age. The more likely we can believe that we are also able to do just as well as them. However, if we perceive there to be unfairness in their success, we experience something called relative deprivation, which results in an increased psychological distress and lower self-esteem. Specifically, Black and minority individuals are especially vulnerable to this, as things like the societal pressure to overcome economic stereotypes, for example, the negative stereotypes of Black people not earning much, or the negative stereotypes that minority individuals, i.e. non-white individuals, have, that we don't have high income, or we're not able to access certain opportunities. This may increase the desire to display social status via material means. Now, though this is all heavy stuff, we'll now talk about how you can combat negative emotional experiences when using social media. Number one, while incredibly cliche, comparison is indeed a thief of joy. We rarely ever pause to acknowledge our inner emotional environment when we engage in comparison, which then creates a distance between our ideal selves and our actual selves. This leads on to number two. Studies really do show that people are more likely to show off wealth, but avoid disclosing where it comes from. So then allow yourself to be skeptical and not believe everything you see. Be mindful of the type of content you assume and how often you engage in it. Lastly, social media is an inaccurate representation of life's ups and downs. Bring yourself closer to reality and practice being present in the daily interactions with people. Thank you for this presentation. Please find references should you wish to go on to further reading, and please do drop me some questions in the chat, and I'd love to engage in conversation with all of you.
Thank you so much, Gemima. That was really insightful. I particularly liked, I think, the whole idea that comparison is a thief of joy. I think it's come up a few times, even with Ireoluwa's presentation about looking at other people, and I think it can really have a big impact on your mental health. So thank you. If you have any questions for Gemima, remember to just put it on the Slido, and then at the end, when we have the Q&A, I will direct any questions you have to her. Thank you, Gemima. And then I think for our next presenter, we have Ian. If she's here, I'll pass over to her.
Hi, everyone. Hi, good morning. It's still morning.
Yes,
okay.
It's still morning. 7 minutes.
I'm just trying to see how to share my screen. Sorry, 1 second. I keep getting an error message. Sorry, 1 second.
I think we can see your screen.
Oh. Is it sharing now? Yeah. Okay.
It's just
I'm
taking
just
a
going
little bit of time
to
to
carry
load.
on. So it might just be. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming today. We just had a fantastic talk from Jam, and leading on from that, this is going to talk about what happens when our use of social media can become an addiction. And this is focusing on like the African context and thinking about why this is still very important for us, because I think sometimes social media can be seen as something that's very Western, because a lot of these companies are based in the West, but it's just remembering the reality of globalization and the fact that a lot of things are exported to Africa as well. So first of all, what is social media addiction? So social media addiction is where our use of social media becomes excessive, compulsive, and it starts to impact your daily life and well-being. So just like with any other type of addiction, you can get tolerant. So you need more and more time online. I don't know if anyone's ever been scrolling on TikTok. Like the first time you use TikTok, you might have gone on, just looked at a couple of videos and you're like, okay, this is fun. But then later on, you realize, oh, wow, I've been scrolling and this is half my day gone. And you need more and more, and you might find yourself, you know, in between breaks, going on TikTok, feeling like you always have to check Instagram or WhatsApp. So that's tolerance. So you need more and more time online to get the same level of excitement. Mood modification. I don't know if anyone's ever been quite irritated because they can't go on social media. So your phone is dead and you can't check Twitter. Or you're at a party and you really just want to go on your phone, but you're too busy talking with people, or you're at school all day and you kind of just want the lecturer to go to the other side so you can go on Instagram online. So that's mood modification. So it impacts your mood. It can make you snappy, angry. It can also lower your mood. So like we're talking about comparison, seeing other people who are having a much better life, that anyway, what they're portraying seems to be a much better life, can lower your mood. It can make you feel bad about yourself, and withdrawal symptoms. So if you aren't getting that fix of social media, to say, you start to feel like cranky, it starts to impact your concentration, and it starts to really affect your day. So really, withdrawal symptoms aren't just for things that are physical, they can also be for psychological addictions as well. And then lastly, relapse after attempts to reduce use. And if you want to put your hand up, if you've ever tried, if you've made it like your New Year's resolution on your birthday, a goal for the next year has been like, okay, I'm going to stop using social media as much. I'm going to put my hand up and be honest that you might have noticed that after a few months or a few weeks, you just go back to your normal use of social media. And it can be difficult to tell when this is normal, because I think it is quite normal nowadays with our use of technology for people to feel some level of all of these. But the reason why it becomes addiction is because it's excessive and compulsive, like we were saying, and it's really disrupting your day-to-day. Okay, so speaking about the African context specifically now. So Africa has one of the fastest growing kind of like populations in general, actually, but also we're seeing more and more social media users, more than the rest of the world. So nearly 594 million users. This was a figure in 2021. I imagine it's much more than that now. Social media, it's a good thing. It's not just a bad thing. So people can build community, especially across the diaspora. It's been a fantastic way to connect and to get social support. There's access to a lot of information, education that otherwise people would not have been able to have access to. So thinking about YouTube and all the study and revision resources on there, or people on study Twitter or Instagram. There's the economic empowerment as well. So lots of people have had their music go very viral on TikTok, and that's given them a platform and given them a career. People start small businesses online. It's a great thing. However, there is a dark side to this really bright, bubbly, optimistic future that we're looking at. So this meta-analysis, the same one that found the figure of the amount of users of social media in Africa, found that internet addiction may be as high as 40.3%. And that is extremely high. That's nearly half of people who are using social media. And this is directly linked to a growing mental health crisis. So this is actually very important for us to have knowledge about and to consider. So the mental health impact, we've talked about comparison before. I'm going to reiterate it a little bit, but it can, all of these things like a reduced self-worth, having a fear of missing out, also being harassed on social media, which is something we're seeing a lot. Social media being used to force people to do things, to humiliate people. It is used as a method of abuse by some abusers. All of this can lead to an erosion of well-being in general. So low self-esteem, poor body image, this can directly link into negative mental health issues like depression, anxiety, and we have seen cases where social media has actually encouraged people to self-harm or to commit suicide. We have seen online that there are some spaces that are purely dedicated to encouraging self-harm, and that is quite worrying. So what are some of the things that make it, that exacerbate the problem in Africa? Because we see it globally. It's not just an African problem, but we have to acknowledge the unique context that we have. So like we said before, we have a fast growing population, and a lot of the population is quite young. So 70% of sub-Saharan Africa is under 30. And it's not a stereotype about Gen Z that we're all like obsessed with social media for no reason. This demographic is the most vulnerable to social media, addictive design, and social media is intentionally designed to be quite addictive. I mean, you have to think about the fact that their minds are still developing. They might not have the critical skills to engage with some of this media yet. Socioeconomic pressures as well. High unemployment rates, limited opportunity. It means that lots of people want to use social media as an escape or to live vicariously through other people. But it can also make things worse. The digital literacy gap. So many young Africans, whilst they have similar access to digital, especially in rural areas. So it's thinking about how are they going to be engaging with the same social media as people in different countries where there is access to digital literacy skills, even from the primary school age, so from the younger ages, like 6, 7, 8, they're being taught digital literacy in places like the UK, the US. And then also there's a cultural stigma. This is just in general, mental health is a taboo in many communities, but specifically in Africa, we do have our own set of taboos around mental health, and that can prevent people from seeking help for addiction to social media or related issues to that. So what is the path forward? It's not all doom and gloom. I think there's definitely a lot of areas that we can tackle. So the first one is empowering young people, but also other people through digital literacy skills. So seeing how can we export digital literacy skills? How can we meet them on the same social media platforms they're already on, and teach them digital literacy skills? I think a fantastic way of doing that is to have people who are actually in the communities on street raising awareness about this. And that's also a way that can reduce the cost says you can use the communities to areas and have to skills to not take it past people, and it can carry on. And then the last one is thinking about policy and platform accountability. So thinking about advocating for governments to really think about what they're allowing social media companies to do and to hold social media companies accountable. It can be difficult in a lot of African countries, thinking about the political climate and the context, but it's still something that we should push for. Because as we've seen, it's not an issue that we can just ignore if we have 40.3% of young people being addicted to social media already. And then thinking about platform accountability as well. So these platforms, what are they letting users engage with? What are the predatory actions they're taking to encourage addiction to social media, and how can we hold them accountable for that as well? I just have some references as well if anyone wants to do some further reading, and that is it. So if you have any questions as well, I think there is the Q&As, and I'll be really happy to answer any questions. But thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ian. That was really insightful. I think someone even put in the chat that so cyberbullying isn't just online drama. It can deeply damage your mental health. I think that's one of the dangers of social media. And I was really surprised, 49.3% of people addicted to the internet is a very crazy statistic. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. If we can just all use our Microsoft applause, that would be really helpful. And again, if there are any questions, you can put them in the Slido link, and during the Q&A, I will direct them to Ian. Thank you very much, Ian. We're now moving on to the panel session today. Now, I fixed the sound last time, so fingers crossed it's working again. I'm gonna play the video for you now, and we'll have our speakers come up afterwards. Spoke too soon. I spoke too soon. There you go. So is there audio? Can you guys hear? No audio? I thought I had it. Okay, let's try again.
Psychiatric Hospital and Center for Global Mental Health. As National Coordinator of the National Mental Health Program, he plays a key role in shaping mental health policy. His research focuses on issues like substance use among persons with mental disorders and addressing stigma. Dr. Ojo advocates for increased inclusion of mental health in medical curricula and highlights the shortage of trained mental health workers. His work aims to improve mental health care in Nigeria through research, policy, and advocacy. Esther is a dedicated counseling psychologist and mental health counselor with expertise in addiction prevention and treatment. She holds an M.Ed in counseling psychology and a B.Ed in guidance and counseling, plus a certification in universal treatment curriculum. As a counseling psychologist at Compassionate Recovery Center since 2022, Esther supports individuals and families with substance use disorders and mental health concerns. Her skills include emotional and cognitive restructuring, personal effectiveness, and family life counseling. She helps clients navigate complexities of addiction and mental health issues, providing comprehensive support and guidance. Yusuf Wada is a distinguished academic researcher and public health advocate from Nigeria, focusing on critical health challenges, including mental well-being. With a Master of Public Health degree, he contributes to research and policy, working with institutions like Ahmadu Bello University. Wada's research includes infectious diseases and mental health, with notable publications. He advocates for accessible mental health services and champions the voices of young people from the Global South. Through his work and volunteerism, Wada addresses public health problems, emphasizing vulnerable populations. His dedication makes him a compelling voice for improving mental health outcomes and fostering well-being. Dr. Jibril Abdulmalik is a distinguished academic and researcher in mental health, focusing on the Nigerian context. As associate professor at the University of Ibadan and consultant psychiatrist at University College Hospital, he advocates for public mental health and reducing stigma. As the founder of the Asido Foundation, he promotes mental health awareness and combats discrimination. Dr. Abdulmalik has published numerous peer-reviewed articles and a book, Optimal Mental Health, an Everyday Guide. He collaborates with international organizations like the World Health Organization and has worked as a consultant for the West African Health Organization. His research emphasizes vulnerable populations and culturally sensitive mental health care.
Okay, I'm sorry about the sound. Okay, I think we've got our panelists here, so I'm just going to spotlight everyone so you can see them. We have Yusuf. You see Yusuf?
Hello.
We also have Dr. Abdulmalik here. Yay, we also have Dr. Abdulmalik here. Do we have Esther? Yes, we have Esther.
Yes, I'm here.
And
Good
then
afternoon.
we have Dr. Ojo also.
Good day, everyone.
Okay, yes. So we have our panelists in the spotlight. I'm not going to spotlight myself. I'm going to spotlight only the panelists, and we'll go for our questions now. Remember that if you have any questions, please put them in the Slido as we're going through. If there's any questions, I'll read them out. But I have my questions here that I'm going to be asking the panelists to get better insight into all the stuff that we've discussed today. So I'm starting with, I'm going to start with Yusuf, I believe. Let me just get my questions up. Okay, yes. So Yusuf, please, can you share some important data on the mental health landscape of the continent and in Nigeria over the last years? And while you're doing that, can you mention some common mental illnesses in the continent and in Africa, or the continent is Africa, based on their prevalence?
Okay, thank you so much for having me. It's actually very insightful. I listened to the first presentation, which is very important and set a context to what really it is. For the mental health data, it's actually very, very bad for many countries. Looking around, even the first commentary we actually wrote for Nigeria, which actually was part of the reshuffling of the Mental Health Act. For Africa, when you look around the recent WHO estimate showing 1 in 5 people in post-conflict setting live with mental health conditions, it's really bad. When you look around, also access to care, which is very limited. For many countries, having even one psychiatrist per maybe 100,000 people in many countries, and for even many countries like Nigeria, and when you look around down the train, looking around maybe low middle income countries, it's even more worse than that. When you look around the more better ones, maybe the high income countries like maybe South Africa, having 1 in 50,000 in countries, it's really bad. I'm looking around comparing high income countries in maybe in Europe or US, which have actually systemized those things to have a mental health, a psychiatrist, and even educators who actually provide demand for even care. Looking around Nigeria, it's not really different. Over 60 million Nigerians was estimated to actually have one mental illness from one to the other. And only 10% can actually access effective care as we talk today. And Nigeria has fewer than maybe 300 psychiatrists for over 200 million people. So when you do the maths, it's actually even more worse than what we actually say, maybe one psychiatrist per 100,000 people in many African countries. Just like you said, those illnesses or those conditions actually differs. But when you look around the trend, from what I just said, the WHO estimate, the depression and anxiety are most prevalent. And when you look around the trend, there's actually also a shift in that prevalence from bipolar disorder, substance use disorders, and even schizophrenia. It's actually showing a bit of uptake of trend. We can actually see suicide rate is a bit rising, which might be attributed with the socio-economic impacts. Many countries are actually having those high inflations, high economic conditions, and even the whole young people conditions, and even men. So those are a bit mental health data I can actually say, and what really is available. But also, before I close, just to show that when you look around those estimates, some are even 10 years, 20 years back, or 30 years back. So one of the main issue in the space is that those mental health data are not really accessible. So there's not much investment to even estimate or even to provide evidence related to that. So over from me.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. That was very insightful. I had to go and get my pen and my iPad because the statistics and the numbers are really helpful, and there was a lot of insight there. So I'll move on to my next question now. My next question is directed at Dr. Tunde Ojo, and the question is, are mental health needs the same across demographics, for example, age, socioeconomic status, religion? And how can we tailor mental health to support diverse populations, including youth, seniors, and marginalized communities? Oh, also, this is directed to Yusuf as well. So after Dr. Ojo, we'll have Yusuf chime in on that question.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we're not getting any camera.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I couldn't get the camera tap on my phone. I don't know what's happening.
That's okay. We can hear you very clearly.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for the question. And well, I think the simple answer to that is to say that mental health needs they are not the same for across because even from the management perspective as a clinician, if you have two clients with the same diagnosis, the management options are not going to be the same. There are no two people that are the same in their management. And so if we look at across lifespan, and if we talk about addressing people's mental health need, of course, we will know that looking at it again from the very public health perspective, if we look at it from that perspective, then we will say that well, so there's prevention, there's promotion, universal interventions across the different lifespans. But you will agree with me that the mental health needs of adolescent and young people is there's quite a lot more that we can do in the area of prevention and promotion. And so if there is the shift away from management of mental health conditions, in which has always been the narrative that drives mental health. But everyone knows that that if we are talking about mental health now, is beyond management of disease conditions, which is like the tip of the iceberg of the whole thing. And so a lot can be done in the area of prevention and promotion. And we know that mental health conditions, 50% of mental health conditions are already established by the age of 14, and also by the age of 24, there are about 75% of mental health conditions that mental health professionals will be dealing with are already established. And so what it means, or what that information means for us importantly, is that there's quite a lot of things that we can do upstream, early life, in order to prevent mental health conditions. And so emphasis on prevention of substance abuse, and of course, talking about the last presentation that spoke on social media addiction. And this is not just something that is happening in high income countries, but we know that this is a global pandemic. And so the role of addiction and how it's affecting the mental well-being of people. And you will see that even in high-income countries, in some of the Scandinavian countries, they have seen that the double-edged sword of internet and its impact on not just on mental health, but even on life achievement. And so for adolescents and young people, building their resilience, promoting mental well-being, and also uh, ensuring that people able to deal with life adversities, transiting within life. So these are some of the things that emphasis can be put on in among adolescent and young people, school-based mental health program, which are quite evidence has also shown that prevention is not costly, it's cheaper, and it can actually go a long way, much more. And if you are talking about maybe if you are looking at women's mental health, if you are looking at the mental health of adults, the older adult, of course, also in this spectrum of life, you will also see that there are quite a lot of interventions that can be put in place for prevention and promotion of mental well-being. And mental health is global, so is mental health conditions. All the diagnoses are the same everywhere, even though their presentation may differ. But what is very important is the role of culture, and which also speak to your consideration about religion. And so, whatever intervention that we are going to do, we're going to develop for people across the spectrum of care, be it prevention, promotion, and even if it is the secondary or tertiary rehabilitation and the management and in the community-based rehabilitation or whatever, people's culture have to put into consideration in developing interventions, and that's why the issue or the area of cultural competency is very, very important. So wherever people find themselves, they try to play a very key role in addressing the mental health needs of people. Then you will try to meet people where they are, and what that means is the intersection of culture and mental health. And of course, gone are the days when people will be saying that, oh, religion and mental health, that they are two parallel lines that can never meet. But the truth is, there are faith-based interventions now, uh, and increasingly, the more we understand people and their background, then the much more we are able to develop interventions that will be of help to people. I think that would be my hope now and answer to that question. And again, it's good to be here. And then speaking with other panelists, and I must also recognize especially Professor Abdulmalik, uh, my senior teacher, and good to see you here, sir. And then for the organizers, thanks for putting this together. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Yusuf, but just before I hand over to Yusuf, I think the point made about youth is really important. I know that Dr. Abdulmalik does a lot of work with young people. I think after Yusuf, if you could please shed some light on your perspective on that question as well. Thank you.
Okay. I think it's he actually presented a good context, and basically just like he said, it's actually the needs are very changes or vary significantly. Just to borrow somewhat from the first speaker, trying to say even the mental illnesses are very high, but underreported, maybe due to stigma, religious misconceptions, low investment, educational gaps, and many other things. And just trying to ride over that in the sense that for young people and also maybe low income marginalized, there's actually a shift in the whole continent. We're actually seeing an uptake or increase in or shift in actually from infectious diseases to maybe non-communicable diseases. And we saw even the prevalence of many infectious diseases like HIV, TB is actually increasing. So those needs for those mental health, particularly for young people, is actually increasing. So when you look around, even young people actually facing social media pressure, it's actually one of the main things that you see people being depressed, having high suicidal rate because there's actually that peer pressure from that social media. When you look around also many countries around the continent, one key thing we have in common is that it's actually high unemployment rate. So people or young people having been unemployed actually it's attributed to saying that even their mental health differs, even organization, institutions might really start to actually rethink their approach around keeping a mental health person who actually will provide psychosocial counseling and other things. When we look around also substance abuse, we actually see the UNODC, the Union Office on Drugs and Control, showing that even the continent is actually seeing a shift in actually even from drugs to also substance abuse. So that's also something that require a more different approach to actually look around the needs of them. When we look around also people who are above the age of young people, you see there actually also a shift in actually even those non-communicable diseases, saying that someone has diabetes, is depressed, someone is dealing with loneliness, someone is having dementia, sometimes even neglect. You see people try to see their children leave Japa or something like that. There's that neglect, maybe missing them or other things. So also it needs differs. So we look around also the issues around people who are low income groups in the country. Uh, when you see people facing trauma due to no food to eat, they have limited access to services. Is it health services? Is it economic access? And a lot of things. So we haven't recognized even on our own programmatic shaping to say maybe for example in Nigeria doing things like socio-economic maybe briefing or something, but they don't really show those mental health things. So for also marginalized group, you could see there's actually uptick of maybe people experience stigma, cultural, religious barriers. I think those are things that we need to actually also look at. How do we provide a more tailored services? A tailored services, is it using community-based models for young people using those social media side? How do you also encourage culturally appropriate therapies? I know many people from here in the south might really say no. What really works in maybe Lagos might not really work in Borno due to maybe differences in their own maybe socio-economic, socio-demographic differences. Sometimes many young people might need peer support networks, peer support group to actually tell them that we have actually lived those journey, and we know we can pinpoint where the pain points are and how do we address them. And one key last thing I could say, digital tools might really be a game changer, especially how do we use or leverage those digital tools to adapt to local languages, to say maybe how do we talk to people, how do we send messages to people to say when you have mental health, it's not really a big issue. You can go to you can go to a hospital, you have someone that can talk to him. Community-based solutions, how do we scale them, how do we get government backing? So those are things I felt are really, really important, and we need to actually put them to ourselves to actually put those
Thank you, Yusuf. Thank you. And yeah, and just moving on to Dr. Abdulmalik now. I guess the youth perspective, you have that from your practice. I'm really interested to hear that.
Right. Thank you so much for having me, and good day, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you. Let me start by appreciating Dr. Tunde Ojo, who is the national coordinator for the mental health program in the country. So he's the #1 person for mental health in Nigeria. And you people, pulled all the stops to get him to, he's a very busy man, to get him to join you for this. So really appreciate you, Dr. Ojo, for making up time to support this program. And very quickly, I just align with most of the points that have been made in terms of recognizing that Nigeria and indeed Africa's population is predominantly youthful, right? We have 63% of our population below the age of 24 years, about 50% below the age of 15, and 70% under 30 across the continent. So that is a huge youthful population. So the key question is, what do we do with these youths? What are the challenges of young people? The major challenge, again, let me start by saying that we need to remember that health, as defined by the WHO, is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, right? And these three components are intertwined. They are not mutually exclusive. They are not disparate items, So we have physical health, mental health, and social well-being intertwined. We have a lot of triggers that are affecting young people these days. One key area I want to really highlight is the impact of social determinants of health. In this case, social determinants of mental well-being. Previously, on our continent, in Nigeria, we enjoy very strongly cohesive family units. We no longer have that. We have situations where daddy is hustling, mommy is hustling, and we are outsourcing parenting to digital devices. We leave children and adolescents and teenagers, so as long as you have a PlayStation, you have video games, so you can keep yourself company. Or we outsource parenting to nannies and house helps, and the mother is not there, the father is not there. These children are left to themselves. So you find that loneliness is an epidemic of loneliness among young people, right? And this family size is also shrinking. Now you have families with one child, two children, and sometimes there's a huge age gap between the children such that they are not really very close, right? By the time one is in secondary school, the other one is just entering primary school. The one is off to university and the other is still. So that companionship is not there. And the mistake we make is to think that digital devices will substitute. You can have 10,000 friends on Facebook or TikTok and Instagram, but in real life, if you don't show up in school, how many real life friends do you have that will look after you? Many times they are very particularly few. Okay, so we have a breakdown of the traditional family structure that we previously enjoyed. And that is leaving our youth much more vulnerable to loneliness, to anxiety, to depression, to peer pressure, as well as experimenting with drug use. Mr. Yusuf had mentioned the UNODC report, the United Nations Organization for Drug and Crime, the latest drug report, global prevalence among adults aged 15 to 64. Global prevalence of drug use was 5.3%. 5.3%. Prevalence in Nigeria was 15.5%, triple the global average. Triple the global average. That tells you we are sitting on a time bomb. And who are these people that are experimenting, that are consuming these drugs? Young people. You go to most schools, secondary schools, universities, colleges of education, male and female, everybody is smoking weed or taking it as chocolate and all forms of fancy means, cookies, and taking all these things and dismissing its risk. So we have a lot of problems with drug use. We have a lot of problems with emotional problems in young people, anxiety and depression and loneliness. And we are also having a huge problem with suicidal behaviors, attempting suicide or successfully. I mean, the last JAM results for those of you in Nigeria, remember that there were some students who got abysmally low scores and were very sure that those scores were not theirs. right? One of those students, a young girl in Lagos, actually took her own life, right? Because she believed that she couldn't have scored. She was given a score of 150. Eventually, JAM came back to say that there was an error, technical glitch in places affecting some states in the east and Lagos. And part of Lagos that was affected was where the young girl had sat for her exam. So they were given a chance to retake the exam, and most of them now did exceptionally well. But she's gone. And what we need to understand is suicide is avoidable, irreversible loss of precious human life. Once it's gone, we don't get spare parts. We can't go to the supermarket and buy a spare life once it's lost. But the factors that lead to suicide are preventable. They are avoidable. That's why the WHO has a World Suicide Prevention Day every year, September 10th, every year. But these are problems, especially among young people. So one very important problem I should mention is that of ignorance. Ignorance, lack of awareness, shame, and stigma. And this is actually the raison d'etre of the organization I founded, the Accident Foundation, to promote awareness. Our people perish for lack of knowledge, right? People don't know where to go for help. People don't even understand when they are depressed that this is a depressive episode, right? And that they need professional help. So that's ignorance, lack of awareness, the shame and stigma in our society. These are huge barriers making so many young people to suffer in silence, coupled with the social determinants that are ongoing, apart from all the other fantastic points that all the previous speakers have mentioned. So I think we need to pay attention to these issues and look at how to address young people's mental health in schools, school mental health, from families as foundational, as well as deploying religious bodies. The pulpit and the minbar for those who are Muslims are very powerful tools that we need to use to educate people that it is not a spiritual attack, it is a medical condition. Seek for the professional help when you are struggling. There is no shame in it. It is not. One last thing I would say is, apologies if this is going on long. One last thing I would say is that most people say, oh, it's spiritual. So don't go, just have faith, pray more. And one key thing, middle of the road approach that I beg people to adopt is to say, we are by no means saying you shouldn't pray. Please pray. But in addition to praying, get the professional medical help. They shouldn't be mutually exclusive. They can actually be synergistic. So that way you are satisfying your faith and spiritual beliefs while also using the best of scientific evidence to get the medical treatment we need. And I think if we do that, we'll make progress. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really, insightful from all three speakers. Somebody put in the comments, really agree with Jibril. The outsourcing of parenting and overall real social communication and networks, digital connections, is a silent vulnerability factor in loneliness, antisocial behavior, and the formation of overdependency in toxic, romantic, and platonic relationships. So, and somebody else said, I fully agree. I agree with you. I think it's a really, that came up last year. I gave the example of if you find out that you have a cancerous tumor, yes, you go to church, but you also go to the doctor and they give you the medication you need, they give you the chemotherapy and you explain it. Somebody else said the explanatory framework of spirituality and religion for mental illness is also an important factor. I think is very insightful. This is part of my dissertation, so I'm very interested in this. Yeah, maybe you can reach out to Dr. Abdulmalik afterwards so he can help you with that. Well, thank you. So we'll now like to move on to the next question. This is directed at Esther. I know you've been patiently waiting. I was even feeling bad. I'm gonna try and speed it up. So just in the interest of time, because I know we need to end at 1:30. So my next question is to Esther. And my question is, how do you work with clients to identify and address underlying triggers or patterns that contribute to their mental health concerns?
Okay, thank you everyone. Please, can we hear me? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I appreciate the organizers of this program and everyone that has spoken before me. So in my work as a counseling psychologist, how do I help people identify and address underlying mental health concern. So the first thing here is how do I help clients to identify that there's a mental health concern? Because we are in a generation where people find it difficult to accept that there's a problem, especially when it comes to mental health concern. Because at the mention of mental health, you're already thinking, oh, maybe I'm mad, maybe I'm crazy. And you know, when you say mental health, you are thinking of someone scratching their body, offing their clothes on the streets and all of that. And that is not really what mental health is. So even when people have some mental health conditions, they find it difficult to accept that there is a problem. So how do I help them, or how do we help them? Because this is for every one of us. Every one of us have one role or the other to play in helping people come out of these challenges. So the first thing I do, or that we can do, is to provide or to create a safe space, a non-judgmental space where people can feel seen and heard. You know, the reason why people would not want to accept that there's a problem is because of judgment. Oh, they will judge me. People will be looking at me somehow. People will be, maybe I will not be able to get a job. Even people that present in the facility, oh, maybe tomorrow if I want to do something, people will bring up my history. So these are problems that we have at times. So the first thing is to create a safe space that they can know that, you know, when just the way you have a physical health, you have a mental health. The same way your physical health can be tired, you can be sick physically, you can also, your mental health can go through some sort of distress. So to help them understand that sometimes it is okay not to be okay, and there is help that is available for them. So to be able to get to the root cause is to create that safe space where they can feel heard and they will not feel that, oh, they'll be misjudged. So another thing is, you know, the question is to how to identify and to address underlying problems. So how do we address underlying problem? Because people don't just feel triggered. And one of the ways to manage this is to help people to understand, to be able to identify what exactly triggered them. And when we talk about trigger, what does trigger mean? Trigger are just things, you know, that put you on edge, and which can be people, it can be places, it can be activities. It can even be time, you know, sometimes some season, you know, just like this is the weather is somehow, it can affect some people's mental health. So ability so how do we now understand that, okay, these people triggers me? So as a counselor, you know, you can't just say that, okay, this is your trigger. So you know, we go through their series of assessments that can be done, and some therapeutic intervention, you know, that can be done, like motivational interview, to let them, you know, motivate to help them to have motivation for change, that they can really do something about this situation. And also another thing we do to identify underlying trigger and pattern is to explore their life history. Okay, how is growing up like? You know, this problem, many of, even when it comes to substance issue, addiction is just, or drug use is just the branches, it's just the fruit that we see. The root cause is under, which stem from sometimes abandonment. You know, maybe for someone that, okay, I don't have a good relationship with my parents, I don't, you know, the family structure, the family bonding is all there. And anytime I see other people with their family, I always look at myself that, why can't this be me? That is the root cause for that person's mental health concern. So we want to explore, you know, life stories, how they grow up, some major events in their life. And, you know, this brings us to, you know, trauma care, to understand some traumas that the person must have gone through that is giving them the challenge or the problem that we can see now. You know, I mentioned abandonment, rejection, shame, you know, family trauma. And when we are able to identify this, and this is not about pointing it out to the person. It's also about walking the person through the journey and letting them see that this could be a factor. There are times that some people don't know that some certain things are a problem. They just think that I'm just behaving like, I'm just always angry. I'm just like that. Helping them see that you are not just getting angry. You are not just being aggressive. You are not just like this, but this could also be a factor. The way you grow up, some life experiences that you have might be a problem. So, and how to also help them understand pattern. We are looking at things that are reoccurring. What time of the day do you feel that your mood is always low? Is there anything that people say that makes you get angry or that makes you feel sad? So when we are able to identify some of these triggers, it now leads us to the point of, working collaboratively with the client and building healthy coping strategies. So how then do we cope? How then do you cope with this issue? There's something about the serenity prayer that I always, recite with my clients. God grants us serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. So, we help them to understand things that can change. Okay, these things that is happening to me, I can change this. I can change this thing. This one is within my control, and this one is outside my control. So the ones that are within my control, which are the things that lies within me, my response to things. How can I change this? And when it comes to, helping them to also understand and identify things that are out of their control, other people's response, things that has to do with other people, and the wisdom to know the difference. Because if you are struggling to change other people, you'll be putting yourself through a lot of stress. So, working together to identify some of these things, and also to challenge negative beliefs. This can help with dealing with patterns. Challenge negative beliefs, and that is where CBT comes in, cognitive behavioral therapy, to identify faulty thinking. When someone is thinking that everybody have to like me, not everybody will like you. Helping them to have a rethink, to change the way they think, to change the way they think about themselves, about other people. So I've mentioned, healthy coping strategies, how to cope in an healthy behavior. So instead of when you are, for example, when you are low in your mood or when you are down, instead of taking to substance, what else can you do? Having varieties of alternatives that, okay, when I'm not happy or when I'm low, I can speak to another person. I can speak to my therapist. I can take a walk. I can do other healthy things outside substance. And this is also, helping clients to understand that having insights is not enough. Insight is, okay, I recognize I have this problem, but managing mental health concern also requires consistency. It also requires compassion, even being compassionate to yourself, rather than, beating yourself down, rather than blaming yourself for everything. Sometimes helping them to understand how they can be kind to themselves, and also the place of support. Facing mental health condition is not something that that you have to go through alone. The place of social network, talking to other people, is also very important. So let me stop here.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting. I liked particularly the point that you made about how the same way you can be physically ill, or the same way that you can have a mental distress. And I think the counseling psychologist perspective is really interesting, because unlike prescribing a medication or just saying you have this, you actually get to journey with the client and see exactly what happened here that made you end up in this position. And I think it's really interesting. Okay, my next question, because I know that a lot of the people from the audience are teachers, we have some pharmacists, we have some people that are not specifically working in mental health. So my next question is for all the panelists, and I wanted to ask, from your specific perspective, so we have two doctors, a policy specialist and a counseling psychologist, and we also have, yes, he's a doctor, but he's also policy as well. So from your specific discipline, you could answer this question, and we'll do Dr. Ojo, Esther, Dr. Abdulmalik, and then Yusuf. The question is, how can different sectors like health, like education, like social welfare, and even law enforcement, like the police, we're talking about substance abuse, how can they all work together more effectively to create a unified approach to tackling mental health triggers? Or what can individuals in these areas do to support the cause?
Okay, Tolu, you want me to start, right?
Yes, we'll go with you, then Esther, then Dr. Abdulmalik, then Yusuf.
Okay, I think you can see my screen now, right? I mean, I'm visible, right? Okay, so I think I will not be saying anything new. The public health approach is the multi-sectoral, society-wide approach. And so it's not just about mental health, but take it from that perspective, and more so for mental health, that the biopsychosocial approach, and also that if you look at the multidimensional perspective to mental health, and I will say that maybe from the ministry perspective, I would say that the way we have always looked at this, I mean, maybe more so in the last 3-5 years thereabout, is, and I'll give example of the technical working group, the National Mental Health Technical Group, in which we have people from various ministry, like Ministry of Women Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Ministry of Education, the Nigerian Police, the Nigerian Ministry of Defense, you know. So if we look at the National Orientation Agency, if you look at Ministry of Finance, if you look at every one of them, that everyone has a role to play, and even the religious leaders, more so in our setting. So it's for us to get this understanding, to get all the stakeholders to know that mental health is everybody's business. And so if you're a religious person, you need to address the issue of stigma, mental health promotion. If you're talking about religious counseling for mental health, you know, they have that understanding. We know that the religious people, I mean, the faith-based organizations, they are closer to the people. And the religious leaders are opinion shapers. Whatever they tell their congregation has so much to do about their perception about mental health, what they attribute it to, and where they go to their first point of call, even when someone has some mental health challenge. And even in the management. So people will, like Tolu, you said that if someone has a tumor, go to your pastor, go to your imam, but still go to the hospital, right? And so we've seen people that are undergoing management, and then in the name of miracle or in the name of believing in God, stop your medication. And so people stop their medication and they relapse, and then you know about the outcomes. But when increasingly in religious organizations, you find out in some of their teaching that they're talking about mental health, about depression. Now they're demystifying the conversation. Before, people attribute mental health to demonology, demons, jinns, you know, but now people are now looking at the biopsychosocial approach, and by demystifying this conversation within those places, it's really changing the narrative about mental health. If you're talking about school-based mental health program, even the issue of how do we address mental health, how do people get more conversant about the social determinant, how do people prioritize it in their budget, you know, all the ministry that they look like, oh, maybe we don't really have anything to do with mental health. But the more you have this conversation with them, the more they know that this is our smaller role in the bigger picture for the overall mental well-being of all. And I must say that apart from the national mental health policy that we have, the National Suicide Prevention Strategic Framework, all of this, you will see the multi-sectoral approach to it, that people, what can different sector do? And also in the ministry, there is the multi-sectoral action plan for NCDs and mental health. Again, in all this document, it speaks to different roles that all the stakeholders, what's it called? All the stakeholders can play. When we come together, we start a big thing, and then when we stay together, we achieve big things. And so I think that would just be my very umbrella comment on the role of everyone in addressing mental health.
Thank you very much. That was really important. I particularly like the part of the biopsychosocial approach, because even over here, that's what we use. Like even teachers are involved in finding students that they suspect have ADHD or autism and making that referral and ensuring that they get the care they need. So that's a really important point. We'll move on to Esther now.
Okay, my turn, right? Please, can you repeat the question? I'm really sorry, I was a bit distracted.
That's okay. The question was about different disciplines, how they can, because a lot of the audience members, some of them are from education, some of them are pharmacy. So the question was, how can different sectors like health, education, social welfare, and even law enforcement work together more effectively to create a unified approach to tackling mental health triggers? Just in case anybody's here and thinking, okay, yeah, I care, but I'm a policeman. How can I really help?
Okay, thank you very much. Everybody do have a role to play when it comes to addressing this issue of mental health. Okay, so in the school setting, you know, children spend a lot of time in school. I mean, most of their active time would be spent in the school. So teachers get to see these students. So school owners, teachers, we all have a role to play in this in the area of number one, education. So if we are all aware that there's something called mental health, and mental health is not the same as mental illness. So having the right education would help us to pass this message across, that the fact that you're feeling somehow does not mean that end has come to your life or you will not have a career. So every one of us needs to be educated. So mental health education, I think should be part of the school curriculum, so that when we are all educated, it will be easy at least to spot the early signs of mental health concerns. So, and when it, you know, this is if it's easily addressed on time, you know, it's the earlier the better. Just like every other condition out there, if you're diagnosed on time, or you're able to identify that there's a problem, you know, on time, it will be easy. You'll be able to, you know, live your life. So number one, being educated about what mental health is. And when we can all together, when we're educated, it will be easy to break the stigma around mental health. So everybody will be able to come out to share their challenges, to share their opinions. So that's on the part of the school. And of course, in the school, they will be taught how to manage LD coping mechanism or LD coping strategies, how to manage our emotions, even when it comes to our thought process. So that's part of the school. So I think the person that spoke before now talked about religious organization. So when we don't demonize mental health, that is the work of the demon, is the village people that is making you feel this way, is because you are not praying enough. You cannot be spiritual and still have mental. So, you know, when the clergy, even whether Christian or Muslim, when we all have this understanding, so it will be easy, you know, for even the pastors or the religious leader to say that this thing, we have prayed about it, you need to seek help. I mean, I'm a Christian in my church. There are times that my pastor will call me, you need to see this person because we have prayed. So this time, this person needs professional help. So when even a religious leader know when to make referral and not to take everything to ourselves. So when it comes to government, also have a role to play in terms of policy making, in the area of policy making, making right policies, and implementation of some of these things. Because I know there are people from other countries in Nigeria who can make policy, but implementation is another area. So making policy that supports mental health and implementing them, and another thing, making mental health services accessible and affordable for all. Some people know that they have mental health condition, but they can't afford treatment because we all know that treatment is treatment is not cheap. So that is that on the part of the government. So everybody really have one role or the other to play when it comes to mental health and even social welfare. There are some people that cannot afford treatment, like I said. So if we have some people that can integrate people, helping them access care. And I can tell us for free that some people, it's not like they don't have the money, but their awareness is not there. They don't even know where to carry their children or their ward or a family member to when they have breakdown or when they are abusing substance. So that's why people rather go to religious places where they will tie them down, dehumanize them, and their condition gets deteriorated before they access the right help. So every one of us, yes, not everybody might not be a counselor, might not be a psychologist, but we can all be advocates for mental health. We can all be mental health advocates, at least to be able to know what to do immediately, how to get people, how to refer people. Like some of us, if we start asking, if someone have a mental breakdown, what would you do or what can you do? We might not know this. So we all need to educate ourselves. And lastly, I want to talk about 3 important areas. The area of prevention, which is part of what we have done today, educating ourselves, enlightening ourselves, prevention, how to prevent mental health illnesses, how to manage our mental health, how to take care of our mental health, in workplace, everywhere. So that's the area of prevention. The area of treatment is also important. That is where, psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, rehabilitation center or psychiatrist hospital, that is why they are there. So like I said, the first time I spoke, mental health is not about somebody running mad or crazy, tearing clothes, wearing rags. No. So that area of prevention, recovery, which is also an important aspect that all of us, need to be part of recovery. There's still this issue of stigma. So if you tell someone that, even as a professional, I tell someone, I think we need to speak with a psychiatrist. No, I'm not mad. I'm not this, thinking that psychiatrists only treat psychosis. Psychosis is just one aspect of it, right? So the area of recovery, and even after people go to rehabilitation center, even after they go to psychiatric homes, when they come back, how are they being reintegrated back into the society? That is another issue, because people, even in my experience, people will come for treatment, you treat them, they get better, they come adhere to their medication while they are with you, while they are under their care. But when they get to no family support, nobody to check on them, have you taken your medication? Have you done this? Have you done that? So because, like I said, the patient alone cannot recover. You cannot recover alone. The place of support is still very, very important. So the 3 aspects, the area of prevention, the area of treatment, and the area of recovery is very important. And if you look at these 3, you will see that there is somewhere that we all fit in. So if you can't do treatment, you can do prevention by educating people, by creating awareness. And if you are in the area of treatment as a professional, you play your role. And in the area of prevention, recovery, reintegrating them back, family support, social support is also important. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think that was a really good point. I think we were all very excited in the comments. I think we have some comments here. We've got mental health is not the same as mental illness. Word. Thank you, Esther. and we can all be mental health advocates. And yes, the ACIDO Foundation generates a lot of information and content to promote mental health awareness. And the website, I'm going to definitely send that through to everybody in their email. And I think there's some details in the program too. I think you bring up some important points that I think actually align with like public mental health anyway, the three components, where if you're a teacher, yes, you might not be able to treat somebody who's mentally unwell, but you can definitely raise flags, you can promote it, you can even speak to their parents and signpost. So that's really interesting. And then we move on to Dr. Abdulmalik now.
Thank you very much. Excellent points, Dr. Ojo and Esther. I really love all the fantastic points that have been marshaled. I just want to make a quick distinction. When we talk about all sectors being involved, you know, there is this thing about, oh, mental disorders or mental illness is something that happens to other people, right? Others may need it. How do we contribute to help others? But the point is, as long as you're a human being, as long as you have a brain, you can have a mental disorder. You can have an anxiety episode. You can have a depressive episode. You and I are vulnerable, just like every other Tom, Dick, and Harry. So it's not about, oh, it's not my sector. I'm not in health. I'm only in police. I'm only in the school. What if, is there any reason why students in school and even teachers themselves cannot develop mental disorders? There's none. They can. They are vulnerable. So it's not about doing it for other people. It's about looking after your own health. Remember the definition of health: complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being. We all want to be healthy, don't we? And for us to be healthy, we have to be physically healthy, mentally healthy, and socially wealthy. So these are the three components of health. So let's not have the illusion that mental disorders is something that happens to other people. There are doctors with mental health challenges. There are medical students with mental health challenges. There are lawyers, professors, engineers, as long as you're a human being. So I just want to quickly make that distinction. Now, with respect to the fact that you are not a health worker, you're not working directly in the health sector, Dr. Ojo had already told us, multi-sectoral collaboration, everybody on board. But remember the concept also of first aid. When we're in school, in primary school, secondary school, every school had a first aid box. So if you fall down playing football, you graze your knee, they take you there, they clean the wound, apply iodine, and you know, that from the first aid box. And we used to run away from the iodine, so you'll hide your injury because the iodine is very painful, right? So, but we should also remember the WHO has developed a project, a manual, an intervention program called Psychological First Aid, PFA. So first aid by definition is the aid you provide before specialized medical care is available. So somebody has an injury, claim it, apply first aid and all of that. Then if it is more serious, or maybe there's a fracture involved, you have to now transport the person to a hospital for specialized care. So psychological first aid leverages on the same concept that people go through emotional pain, emotional injury, anxiety, depression. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry should be able to offer basic psychological first aid in schools, in the police, wherever, in the market, in the workplace. Workplace mental health increasingly is becoming a big area. In fact, there's an area of psychology known as organizational psychology, which deals with relationships within the workplace. Do we get it? So we have to remember that all of us have a duty of care to ourselves, to our siblings, to our spouses, to our children, to our colleagues at work, wherever we find ourselves. We have a duty of care to be healthy. And being healthy does not mean going to the gym alone. It's not just physical, it's not just having six-pack, it's not just reducing weight and having a shape that you want or something. It's also about promoting your emotional well-being. It's also about promoting your social well-being. And the three components together make up being healthy. So we have an individual responsibility to ourselves, as well as a collective responsibility to our colleagues everywhere we find ourselves. Plus, to emphasize what have already been said, which I'm not going to belabor, every sector needs to work together because this is a collective responsibility. Health is everybody's business, okay? Legal, schools, religion, the marketplace, the workplace, everybody all the ministries, everybody has a responsibility to play. And all of us are very powerful. We all have a social media handle. If you put something on your status now, all your friends, everybody in contact will see for the next 24 hours. That is a powerful platform. Everybody is a journalist today. You don't have to go on CNN to be able to make a profound statement. So whatever you learn from this conference today, kudos to the organizers for bringing such a high-powered panel and for all the fantastic speakers that have been speaking since this program started. Whatever nuggets you've learned individually, I will encourage us, make a post on your social media handle and put an hashtag. So please give us an hashtag so that there's uniformity, so that everybody, you'll be able to track it on social media, the mileage. So before we finish, give us an hashtag that we should be using. So everybody that makes a post, put the hashtag, right? So that we can really, all of us. So that's why I really like the comment that Esther made, that we are all mental health advocates. We all should be mental health advocates. And if you don't know what to do, just like and follow the Asido Foundation and just share our message. Thank you.
A bit of promotion there. But yeah, I think it's really important. I think when we're looking at, I particularly like the point that you made about us all being journalists. I think that's really interesting because literally I can spread the news to my whole entire network, and what I spread is really important. So thank you. And yeah, that was really interesting so far. And now for our final speaker, Yusuf, on this same topic. But there's a lot that's been said already, so I'm sorry you might not have much to say, but we'll just move on to Yusuf now. No? Maybe Yusuf is not with us. Is Yusuf with us?
No. I was just trying to actually connect. Sorry, I was in a conference. There's actually a council meeting on HIV, and maybe I'll write to that. Actually, it's actually we're actually at a crossroad for the country, and I'm very happy we're co-creating at least some solutions here, and I'm very happy the director is here looking around what they are doing around the sector-wide approach, meaning that they are actually putting a one plan, one approach for the country, and it's actually reiterate how mental health is, and the main pressure is actually to even tell subnationals how could they put the education, the tech, the health into one plan, one approach, and one voice. And the second thing I could actually say is that there's actually not a time that we could actually put everything at the center of mental health at the center. It's actually now the ministry is actually having not only health but also a social welfare mandate. So when you look around the coordinations, mental health can actually be put in a space in the same time. The third thing is actually even from Jibril Abdulmalik, Prof saying many things we don't even have the data to actually put evidence. We don't really have enough of those resources to do. But the main thing is actually now that even the mental health, we have actually have some progress. We actually have a unit in the ministry having mental health. And when you look around, what is really driving a lot of diseases, a lot of issues in the country is actually mental health. We actually see, for example, HIV burden. We see there's a lot of stigma. We see there's a lot of stigma. Human rights issues are really what is not allowing us to end, for example, HIV in the country. So it's something to actually put mental health in everything we do, even the likes of even the non-communicable diseases. We need those things. Also to add is actually even when we look around mental health educations, it's not really there. When you look around, even in medical student, when you see psychiatric posting, it's more like a different posting. So there's in those schools, in communities, even those specialists can't just go and do psychiatry, even go to primary health care or secondary care. So it's mostly a standalone thing. So it's it's actually around what we call integration of mental health, even in primary healthcare. I've been a champion of that, and I think it's something that even the ministry, 60% of even the care that happens in the country is actually in primary healthcare. And when you look around there, it's actually So how do we even integrate that into the existing into the existing structures that we have? The third thing I could actually say, maybe from this meeting, we can actually leverage is actually what we call the tax shifting, tax sharing. Basically, we have training of non-specialist health workers in mental health. We see even even in our primary health care, secondary care, they are more like not really specialty doctors. How do we shift those care? Is it to nurses attending maternal staff or antenatal care? Is it the nurses that actually provide care for even non-communicable diseases? So how do we ensure that they have those knowledge to actually tax shift or tax share those activities? The last thing I could actually say is actually how do we even promote parenting programs? Is it in tax? I know in many schools they actually encourage even co-create solutions. So how do you also provide that incentives for them? How do we ensure that I was actually in Geneva at the World Health Assembly, and someone was actually promoting a program around stress management even in our schools. Is it secondary school? Is it high schools? Is it universities? Very, very important. How do you ensure that even peer support groups are really established? We have many diseases having maybe technical working groups, have what we call even co-creation of their own solutions. How do you ensure that those peer groups, support groups are there? And I think for me and for many others here, we are always ready to actually also provide our support to even the Ministry of Health to actually see how do we make sure that we can help them to actualize their own missions. And also for many of our organizations, how do we also provide an ear or even our resources to actually see how do they operationalize those things they wanted to do. So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity, and over from me.
Thank you. So before I do my last question, I will turn to some of the questions from the audience now, and then I'll see if I have time to do my last question now. So the first question is regarding substance use. It's from anonymous. It says anonymous. I don't know who it's from, but it says many people think, and that's directed to Dr. Abdulmalik. Many people think that it's a myth that you can develop psychosis from overusing drugs. Could you please debunk this?
Sorry, that what's a myth?
Let me read it again. Many people think that it is a myth that you can develop psychosis from overusing drugs. Could you please debunk this?
Okay, so I want to assume that the person is referring to use of recreational drugs or psychoactive drugs, because you can't develop psychosis from taking malaria.
Yes, I think we had we
Okay.
had a presentation earlier. I think someone mentioned substance use, so maybe that's why they're asking.
Right. So it's not a myth. It is a fact that when you take some psychoactive substances, you can develop psychosis. Right? Now, but let me add a quick caveat here. It's not an all or none. Remember, we all know the association between tobacco smoking and lung cancer. But what we say is that smokers are liable to die young, are liable to develop lung cancer. It's not everybody that smokes cigarettes that will develop lung cancer. And some people can develop lung cancer without smoking cigarettes. But we know that the risk is much higher if you do. Now, the relationship between cannabis, for instance, as an example, and psychosis is very strongly established in literature. You don't have to take my word for it. Any of us can Google. Just Google cannabis and psychosis, and you will find tons of literature about the relationship. Now, that has not prevented some countries, some states in the US, some countries like part regions in Canada and Netherlands, from allowing recreational cannabis in some doses and some. If you go to Amsterdam and you go to a coffee shop, it's cannabis. It's not coffee they are selling there, right? But that doesn't take away the medical research evidence that cannabis can trigger psychosis. Sometimes dose dependent, sometimes one-off. In my 25 years of clinical practice, medical practice, I've seen so many cases. So it's not just anecdotal, it's not just research evidence. But some people who had the university student one exposure and he developed frank psychosis. He was having hallucinations, having delusions, and all of that. So it is not a myth, it is a reality. The fact that you have some people who do not develop psychosis it doesn't negate the experience of thousands, if not millions of others who do. Now, I know it's controversial in terms of liberalization and all. The other thing we have in countries like Canada and Netherlands is strict regulations in terms of the content, the cannabinoid content of what you are taking. THC, tetrahydrocannabinoid, that's the active ingredient. In Nigeria and most of Africa, there is no regulation. Nobody is even standard medications, antibiotics, and so on. When Professor Dora Akunyili was heading NAFDAC and was trying to regulate it, many people went after her life. Hired assassins attempted to take her out several times. Not to talk of an illegal drug like cannabis. Who is going to regulate the percentage content of tetrahydrocannabinoid? We even have synthetic cannabis in Nigeria, where they are mixing it with amphetamines, stimulants, all sorts. So we have synthetic cannabis, Colorado, Arizona, Laos, all sorts of brand names that we are not even sure what the content is. So if we are not careful, and we are seeing a lot of young people in Nigeria now, you can confirm from anybody who is working in kidney medicine, renal medicine, I've seen a lot of young people smoking cannabis, especially Colorado brand, which is a synthetic type of cannabis, coming down with kidney failure because they've added other chemicals to enhance the euphoria that they experience. But those chemicals, whatever it is that they've added to it, is damaging their kidneys. And can you imagine what it means to have kidney failure at 20-something? You need kidney transplant. Otherwise, you have to be taking dialysis 3 times a week just to keep you alive. It's an expensive venture. So let's not, it's something I'm very passionate about because I tell young people when we interact with them that the best treatment for drug abuse is prevention. Don't even go near it. Don't even experiment. That's the best treatment because even in the best of centers all over the world, you go into rehab, you get cleaned up, you come back, you relapse and fall back into rehab. It becomes like a revolving door. And it is a very expensive venture. And you can get derailed, you can lose years in school, you can lose your job, it can cause death from overdose, not even just psychosis alone. So this is not something we should handle with kid gloves or we should play politics over. The fact that it can have devastating consequences, including psychosis and mental health issues, is established. It is not a myth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope that answers the question. Thank you. The next question is directed to Gemima. And the question is, they've said, Gemima, how can we keep our desire for growth in our fields while still distinguishing between living in the present and our aspirational selves? I'll repeat again, just for everyone. Gemima, how can we keep our desire for growth in our fields while still distinguishing between living in the present and our aspirational selves? And I think that's from your presentation, speaking about comparison.
It's a very, very good question to whoever had asked. And I do want to start off by saying that aspiration in itself should never be a bad thing, and it should never be something that you don't want to achieve. But considering how prevalent aspirational content is on social media and how much we compare ourselves to other people and how much information is out there about what you can do and what you can't do in life, it can become very, very much of a lonely thing when you sit and you look at yourself and you ask yourself, why is it that I can't achieve what such and such is doing, or I went to school with such and such and I'm not in this place and all of those things there. But one thing I will say with aspiration is that there is no aspiration without a kind of systematic and kind of responsible approach towards the goals that you want to go to. Humanistic psychology says that the larger the gap between our actual self and our ideal self means that there is a lot of room for psychological distress. And you might kind of sit and resent whether it is yourself or you might resent other people. And you really might see yourself as inadequate. However, to be able to aspire within your personal fields and to be able to get the goals that you want to do, be very realistic and don't be afraid to sit and really reflect. How is it that I'm supposed to be able to get to where I want to be, considering what I'm doing right now? And really, if you're a visual learner, have it kind of like on a chart, or have it have someone to kind of hold you accountable if that's what it is that you would like to do, and check in with yourself periodically speaking. If by month 5 I need to have this, and by month 6 I need to be this, because this is the goal that I want to kind of hit. Visually speaking, when you have that kind of thing, it becomes easier, and you kind of take away the pressures and the external pressures that you can have when you are trying to aspire to something like that. So yeah, I will say definitely aspiration is very good for yourself, and everybody should aspire to something, but there is no aspiration without a kind of responsibility for yourself. How am I supposed to get to where I'm supposed to be? Looking at what it is I'm doing now and what kind of behaviors can I implement for me to be able to get the thing that I want to get.
Thank you. That was a really nice answer, and I hope that answered the question, because the person we don't know who asked it. It's anonymous. We have another anonymous question. It seems, and this is directed to Dr. Ojo. Well, we have 5 minutes left, so I'll just take this one and the next question. And if there's any more questions, I guess you guys can email. All the details for the speakers are on the program, so you guys can contact them personally, or you can contact us and we'll contact them. Okay, I'll take this last question as well that I've just seen in the chat too. So that's the last 3 questions. And then we'll do this question here. So Dr. Ojo, it seems like there is a lot in place in terms of policy regarding mental health. What are the main barriers stopping the ideas from creating significant change in Africa? Shall I repeat? I can repeat it.
Yeah,
the question
please.
is, it seems like there's a lot in place in terms of policy regarding mental health. What are the main barriers stopping the ideas from creating significant change?
Okay, so I think the question is majorly about the policy and implementation gap, and so it's not just about the Nigerian thing. So the gap is essentially, what causes that gap is, I think one thing is the process to the formulation of the policy in itself. So if you don't carry the stakeholders along in the process leading up to a policy, then there's nothing for us without us. So if you don't bring people to the table while you are developing something, then you don't get their buy-in. So buy-in is one critical barrier. And then again, another thing is the political will, which is a strong point that if the political will is not there, if you have the policy there, then I think you're going to struggle in implementing policy. And also not considering local contextual factors. So where you go around the world, you look for fantastic document, and then you try just to maybe change the back cover, and you are very Eldoradic, let me say, in your approach as you are developing policy. But if you don't look at what are the things that are doable within your context, and so these are some of the barriers. Then I will also say again, if I will use Nigeria as another example, will be also the disconnect between the federal level and the state level. And what do I mean by this? Policy are to give direction on what should be done, but most of the implementation has to be done at subnational level. And again, that speaks to ownership. So it's when stakeholders, state government, district government sees that this is something that we have to do, then that is when you can have what's it called? That you can be able to speak to the possibility that the policy will be implemented. And I think there are things being done to address this gap, policy formulation and implementation gap. I know we are constrained for time. I will have spoken more to the context of what has been done, what was it called, in the Nigerian landscape as regards this. I think that will be my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hope that answers your question. Just in the interest of time, I'm just going to move on to the last two questions now. This question is directed at Ireoluwa, and it was, are there any significant differences between low self-esteem and imposter syndrome? Again, that's just a question for Ireoluwa. Are there any significant differences between low self-esteem and imposter syndrome? Oh,
okay. Okay, so I believe Ireoluwa's, I don't know, she's having issues with her mic and her video.
Okay.
Yeah, she says
Okay.
it's
Maybe I can give that question to Esther.
okay.
So we have 3 psychologists here, so any psychologist can take it. Maybe if Esther can't take it, Aramide, can you take it?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead. So low self-esteem is basically just having negative perceptions about yourself. Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not beautiful, I don't measure up. That's more like low self-esteem. While imposter syndrome is you're doing it. So for instance, for low self-esteem, you don't feel beautiful, right? For imposter syndrome, you go for a pageant, you win, but still you feel like, okay, I did it, but okay, maybe I just won because you just don't feel like you measure up intellectually or in your career, or you understand you're doing it, but you just still have that sense of maybe it was luck, but you keep doing it and you keep acing it. You go to the peak of your career, but you still keep feeling less of yourself. So it's not really low self-esteem in the sense that you're like, I don't measure up at all. This one, you have it, but it's just those subtle fears that come up. You do your thesis, you present it, you get an A, but you just feel like maybe it was just luck. But deep down, you put in some work and you did it. It's just that sense. A lot of people feel it. A lot of people who are doing well in their field actually feel imposter syndrome sometimes. It just comes and you're like, did I really just do that? That's more like imposter syndrome. It's not entirely always the negative. You ace it sometimes, but then you have that question where you ask yourself, did I really just do that? Am I really up to the task? Yeah. Basically,
Okay, yeah. Thank you. I hope that answers your question. And then the last question, this is from the chat. This is from Sukurat Ajibola Yusuf, and it's directed at Dr. Tunde Ojo. And the question says, as a CNN Academy 2025 fellow working on a pitch for the upcoming physical simulation in Abu Dhabi, where the theme is global health, I'm exploring the topic of men's mental health. Given that many men suffer in silence due to stigma and societal expectations, do you think focusing on this underreported issue can meaningfully contribute to the global mental health conversation and raise awareness in a way that drives real change? So that's a question for Dr. Ojo.
Oh, sure.
I think so. Sorry. I'll read it again.
No, I got it. I got it. I got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I would have been happy if we could have given it to women to speak for men. But let me tell you that it will more than it will more than speak to changing the narrative. Because again, if it's in the global mental health meeting, the truth is, it's just about stigma. There's stigma everywhere, be it in the UK, in the US, in low and middle income country. It's just that the way it presents itself, just a shade of different colors. And I would say the same thing about men's health, men's mental health as an extension. If you talk about and how culture, masculinity, cultural portrayal of masculinity and how it affects men's health-seeking behavior and mental health without an exemption. And so this is very important. Women, it's okay to cry if something happens to you, but a man, if you cry, it is, what's it called? It is a sign of weakness. And so men, so the resilience of men to a great extent has been damaged. And you will see that even in their help-seeking behavior, the statistic is there, women are more attempters of suicide. But when a man tries suicide, he really wants it. And that's why the statistic for completion of suicide is more with men. Men are more completers than women. And across all the landscape in mental health, not so much has been favorable disposed to men. We talk about women's mental health. There is a specialty. We talk of maternal and child health, maternal mental health. How many people have been talking about this thing? So as someone that is going to this meeting, there are quite a lot of work that has been done to be able to signpost people. I mean, like more of advocacy to bring to the fore the untapped or undiscussed issue about men's mental health. And I think even there is increasingly there is awareness on that globally that try to touchlight men's health and that also on mental health. So I think it will be it's a good choice for that kind of meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So just in the interest of time, I'm sorry if you had any more questions, you could please contact the speakers or contact me or contact Aramide and we'll pass them on there. Everything is in the program. So that concludes the conference. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope it was insightful. I definitely learned a lot and I was supposed to be hosting, but I even had to take notes as well myself. So thank you. I just want to thank all the speakers. Some of them are spotlighted on the screen and then some of them have had to leave. So thank you, everybody. If you have any feedback, that's also very helpful. A lot of people registered, but some people didn't attend. And I say that for the people that attended, I have certificates available. Yay! Signed certificates available for everyone to show that you signed up, that you actually attended the conference. Thank you very much, everybody. That's kind of it. That's final. That's it from me. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in there. Thanks. Thank you so much. See you all. Bye. Also, it'll be recorded, so you can check it out on our YouTube channel. If there's anything you missed, you can go back and, listen to that again. So thank you very much. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Aramide, to you and everyone and all the speakers. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ojo. They did a coup by getting you here. I know how busy you are. Thanks for all the wonderful things you are doing at the ministry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well done, Tunde. Well done, everyone. Nice meeting you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. I think
Bye.
Oh, we've got Dr. Adeboju here. Bye.
Oh, you saw Dr. Adeboju?
Yeah, I saw him. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, bless him. Okay. Still got a few more people.
Shukura.
Bye,
I'm
everyone.
not sure how to pronounce it. Bye, Toby.
Yes,
Toby,
bye.
thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you for your question as well.
the video on as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Tolu, well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Was hiding behind the screen.
Yes, I saw you actually during the countdown. I said, this Dr. Adewale is here.
Oh,
We have to put, yeah, I saw when you registered. You have to put our best foot forward.
I was on, then I went off, then came back much later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.